Let me start by saying thank you so very much for attending day one of the Women's Empowerment Conference. My name is Carla, and I'm the founder of the podcast entitled I'm My Sister's Keeper. Today, I'll be introducing you to a group of brilliant and talented women who will share their life experiences as well as their expertise around a variety of topics, such as finance, education, and health and wellness, just to name a few. My panelists, their sole purpose today is to inspire, motivate, and challenge you to step outside your comfort zone and provide you with the necessary tools that you will need to be able to become the best version of yourself. This afternoon, my first panelist is Michaela, a trained and certified life coach who is also the founder of Joy Inc. Michaela's aim in life is to assist others in finding joy while navigating this interesting road we individually and collectively call life. Michaela, so nice to see you. Take it away.
Hello, everyone. How are we today? I hope it is sunny and beautiful wherever you might be. So as Carla said, my name is Michaela Birdyshaw. I have been a lot of things in my life, but the one thing I know for sure is that I'm a teacher and a healer and a person that is hopeful and joyful through life, right? Because that's what we all want to be, is proud of ourselves and passionate about the work we do. However, there came a point in my life where I kind of lost that. I lost that gusto and that joie de vivre that really kind of inspired me in my day to day. And without inspiration, life gets a little weird, right? So I created what I very proudly call Joy Inc. The question to me came several years ago when it was, what are you tolerating in life? And the answer very easily came with, I am lacking joy, and that's not okay. So I jumped in feet first, and my greatest excitement, my greatest passion right now is to be that teacher, to be that healer, and to bring you along with it. And quite frankly, I can't think of a better way to do that than sharing our stories with women and humans across the earth to bring forth betterment from us all. And man, Carla, you continue to create the space for us to speak our truth, to think about what is true, and then to share that with others. And today is another exemplary, just really passion project for you. And I want to thank you so much for inviting us today. So, women's empowerment, what is that? Well, it can come in a lot of different forms, right? We can talk about, we can talk about empowering ourselves in the home. We could talk about empowering ourselves through our political voices. We can talk about empowering ourselves towards physical and emotional betterment, right? And I think that today and tomorrow, we're going to get a lot of those pieces. So my job as a life coach, as a glow coach, as I like to call myself, I think is to kick this off and say to you, what do you want to get out of this conference today? I hope you've thought about that. If not, I'm going to talk you through a couple of things to put out into the world as we go through this conference and you're exposed to the wonderful stories and the wonderful trials and tribulations that got each of our panelists to a place of saying, I have a story to share with you because I believe there's something in you that needs to hear this today. So, why is this important today? Why do I think that Carla chose right now, this point in time in life, to invite us to be empowered? I think that she has probably lived her whole life to get to this point, to have these experiences, to say, we can do better, but we have to do it together, right? I see you over there, Carla.
Well said. Well said. I love when you speak. I love to hear you speak. You know that already. Yes.
Well, I love to talk to you. So you can oh my goodness, my table. So you can jump on in at any point in time because I can just keep going.
I will.
But I think that right now is the moment, and this could have happened several months ago, and things changed and things, evolves because that's just where we are today. And, you know, for legacy's sake, we are in August of 2021. We've endured a year and a half of real inconsistency and unknowns and heightened fears and changes and perspectives and work situations and financial situations, and everything has changed. And guess what? Today, we sit in a very heightened awareness of the Delta variant for COVID-19. And Delta, yes, it's an airline, yes, it's a lot of things, but it in science and computing means a change, right?
Yes.
So let's take an opportunity and say we have been invited today to bring forth that change. And it's because of the life that Carla has lived, because of, I'll call it out, the women who have empowered her, the
Yes.
sisters that she keeps, the podcasts that she shares, the lives that she is changing. It's all culminating here in this Delta. We are a Delta right now. We are in change. And it's an awkward balance I have found to march one day at a time, to, you know, take it step by step, because we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And that is one part suffocating and one part really kind of relaxing. So we've got to go slow day by day, but we also have to think big picture, and we have to be able to keep hope at the forefront of our small day-to-day decisions, even when, if you listen to the news, if you listen to the, you know, conversations on the street, there's a lot to worry about, guys. But I find in those times, it's the greatest opportunity for change. When I found myself lacking joy, tolerating a lack of joy, it came as a moment that felt like desperation because I didn't think I had any other choice. But when I look back on it, I can say it wasn't desperation. It was absolute necessity. It had to come out of me. Being a coach, being a teacher, being a healer, being a good friend, being a good human needed to come out of me, because that's how we make the world a better place. So at Joy Inc., what we do is we bring in perspective. We share that perspective so we can look at the last year and a half and say, that was rough. Or we can say, what have I found? What have I gathered and collected in those times where I wasn't gathering with 50 people? What was it like to gather with 5? And what did I gain and grow and learn from those encounters? It's having that perspective to say, I was a part of that and I can be accountable to that story, and then do something with it and make it all worthwhile. And then at the end of the day at Joy Inc., we celebrate, man. We made it through a year and a half to this point of Delta, to this invitation of change. My family, we managed through our health and our worries. We were able to keep food on the table. I mean, these are huge celebrations. But it's also that, you know what? I was able to tell my boss yesterday that I wasn't comfortable with the timeline for a project, because that's a real issue too, right? So we celebrate the really big things and we celebrate the really little things, and we take those little nuggets of discomfort and we say, what do you want to do with that? How do we make it better? How do we bring joy and turn up our glow? Right? So, I mean, Carla, chime in at any point in time if there's anything you want to add in here.
You know, you hit the nail on the head. We have lived through some very trying times, and it hasn't gotten any better because now there's the Delta variant.
But it's an invitation for change, because we've got to adjust. We've got to do something with all this energy.
We live to tell the story, because we didn't know what the end of the story would be. We had no clue. And so thank God that our families stayed safe. And we send our condolences out to those who lost family members and friends. Thank God we were able to put food on our tables for our families. We're thankful for that. Thank God we had a roof over our head, because we know that there are a lot of people who did not. So we're extremely thankful. Thank God for those who had jobs to go to, because once again, we are living in trying times. But we lived to tell the story, and we came out on the other side. And if we lived to tell the story through that, because I had never gone through a pandemic before,
Nope.
I'm sure we'll be just fine with Delta 1, Delta 2, Delta 3, 4, 5, and 6 if it happens. We'll just keep pushing full speed ahead and stay safe while doing so. So everything that you said, 100% behind that.
Yeah, and it's not been easy, and it has not been without loss and fear for sure. But we can't continue to live in loss and fear. We have to own it and embrace and acknowledge it, but we've got to keep hope alive. We really
Absolutely.
do. It's how we honor those struggles. It's how we honor those that we've lost, those that served on the front lines. You know, we have to live our best selves. But guys, it can be very challenging to do that when, I mean, I don't know about you, but a year and a half ago, I was overwhelmed with Zooming, like Zoom here, Zoom there, all the Zooms, and like between my kids' Zoom schedules and my Zoom schedules, we were all over the place. And now I'm back to the Zooming in the car to this practice and that practice and camp pickups. And I'm like, holy crap, whoa, right? Because it's very easy to just go with the flow, and it's being able to take stock and having an opportunity like we have today and tomorrow to stop and think about, okay, when I listen to the financial planner, I can think about my financial plans, and that's great.
Yeah.
And I can also think about listening to her story of how she got there, how she endured, what tips and tricks to give, because those things can be applied to the joy, the passion that's hiding inside of you and each of our viewers, our participants.
But I have a question for you,
Sure.
Michaela. Well, actually, a question just came up for you from one of the viewers. So thank you, viewer. The question is, I'm kind of stuck
Mm-hmm.
in the madness of the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
What are two things that I can do to become comfortable living in this uncomfortable time?
I wish I had a magic answer to heal and solve everything.
I know.
What I go back to, because that, like I just said, I was zooming the one way in a computer, I'm zooming in the car, and at some point we have to stop and like zoom in on what we're doing and why, right? So for me, when I jumped into pandemic mode, I mean, I've got two small kids, I've got a business, I've got a husband, I've got
Yeah.
all the things, right? And it was very quickly became clear I had to get down to brass tacks. What was most important to me? What were the values that were most critical?
Yeah.
Obviously, my calendar went out the window, the normal things that got to occupy me. And it really became very simple. I had to trust my gut. I had to be aware of listening to what the talking heads, the doctors, all the
Yeah.
people were sent, what Facebook was saying.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
But I really had to trust my gut. And for me, I decided to err on the side of caution, and I went hardcore. Everything, I
So
had the
did
wet
I.
clothes and the mail and the
Yeah, so
wiping
did
down
I.
my cereal and
So did I.
all the
So did
things. But I had to trust my gut because I knew for me, the safety of my family was non-negotiable.
Yeah.
And I think that still has to be the driver today. Safety, comfort, health, connection. And we learned how to do that. And we can do that again, right? And that we do have some kind of flux and comfort depending on where you are in the country. I'm in North Carolina right now. Mask mandates just went in this particular county.
Yeah.
Uh, we don't know. So for me, I'm going to put the mask on and just know that now I don't have to make the decision. Am I making a lot of plans for the next 2 months? Maybe not really.
Exactly.
But we know how to do this. And I would say to our participant, thank you so much for the vulnerability to ask that question. I think that's a really deep conversation to where in a coaching situation, I would ask you, what's most important to you? And what's got you so locked up? What's got you worried? Because maybe we can connect those dots and maybe we can kind of move around them. Maybe those dots aren't actually dots. Maybe they're little blurbs, from tears. Maybe we're overwhelmed by the things. So seeking clarity on what is most important to you. What is that list? And how do we make sure that the actions and behaviors and decisions that are being made align with those goals and those needs. I would start there. And I think the next thing we would do is then say, well, now what do you want? We know what you need. We know what they're
Yeah.
telling you that you need. We know all the things. Except, what do you want?
Yeah.
Do you want to
Yeah.
be out and about? Do you want to be navigating? Do you want to be working at home? Okay, great. How do we get that while managing through the needs and the more serious stuff?
To piggyback on to what you said, so in my mind, I had a job with the CDC in my mind. Okay. I'm a Google doctor. I didn't leave the house without my gloves, and I wore 2 masks, and I had my hand sanitizer, like the whole from soup to nuts in that situation.
Yep.
But then one day, after being locked in, obviously for several months, and eating tons and tons of potato chips and candy bars, I
Mm-hmm.
just decided that enough is enough, right? Um, all that I could do is be careful and cautious, which I did, but I wanted to live because it
Mm-hmm.
became a point where you just felt like you couldn't breathe.
Yep.
And I didn't want to live like that anymore. And so I said, you know what? I know from what I've read on the internet and listening to the doctors on, the television and friends and family who are part of the medical profession. I just try to follow the guidelines as much as possible, but I wanted to live because I refuse to allow to have this pandemic stop me from my life. I refused. I just couldn't do it anymore. So, scary Mary, me, got on a plane in June and went to Jamaica and followed all of the guidelines. Of course, I wore my 2 masks, okay, which one happened to be an N95, and I wore it the entire time, and I was burning up when I got to the airport, on the plane, when I got into Jamaica. I didn't take it off until I got to the villa, but I followed all the rules and regulations, and I'm still here to tell the
And
story.
you probably felt safe because you are educated. You did
I did.
spend enough time, asking the right questions and looking at the right things. And we have learned how to do this. There's a lot of noise still around it, but we know how to do this. And I would really say with anything, what are your values and what is most important to you? And are
Absolutely.
you structuring your behaviors and your thoughts around accomplishing or achieving or aligning with those values and goals? And that's true of anything. I mean, it's how often you go to the grocery store, right? Like if you need more time, maybe we grocery shop online, or maybe you try to go once instead of twice. I don't know. And that's very simplistic, but we can do big things. We can manage our energy, we can manage our time, and we can manage our information when we know what we're looking for. So it's asking the right questions and being vulnerable and willing enough to answer them in a way to get to that truth. Because, we spend a lot of time doing a lot of things, and we have spent a lot of time worrying about things.
Excuse me.
And I think that now we're in a great position to, now that we know what to do, we kind of know what's expected of us, of this virus, disease, nuisance. We can do it. And so my challenge to our audience today, to our audience every day, is what are you going to do with that? What can we do with that? How do we turn it up? Because greatness and magic and excitement, I truly believe, is brewing wholeheartedly within us all. And as
Michaela, we have another question. I'm
figuring
sorry.
that out. So that's what we're going
So,
to do.
I have a Pam. Hi, Pam,
Hi, Pam.
who wants to know how can she get in touch with you. She says she loves your energy. She loves your vibe. She's stuck in a
I
rut,
love you, Pam.
and she needs some joy in her life. So she
Excellent.
wants to know how can she reach you.
Sure. You can check out one of the best ways to get to me, honestly, is through Instagram. And you get to see a little bit more about me there. It is at My Joy Coach. And that is across, Facebook and the other platforms. And then shoot me a message and we'll kick things off. And, the best part to me about the work that I do is I very selfishly get a great deal out of it, right? Like it fills my cup, and my cup
Right.
truly runneth over with this. But what I believe is that in that ripple effect, right? If I can bring some inspiration, some joy to Carla. What can Carla then do with that? If she feels inspired to bring forth her best self, who's going to benefit? I'm working with this young woman. She's a teacher, an elementary school teacher, and she was just like, "Oh, I just don't know." And I was like, "Listen, if you can't pull this for you, let's work on channeling some of that energy of what are the kids going to get out of this? How are their families going to benefit?
Yep.
How will your community grow because you were able to inspire, motivate, and empower children?" Right?
Another question is in. Another question.
Oh,
I'm
keep going.
sorry. Another question. Sydney says, hey, Sydney.
Hi, Sydney.
Sydney says that he's at a job he's been at for over 17 years. He now has a new supervisor who's a monster. This is what Sydney is saying, who's a monster. And because this person harasses him so much at work, he's willing to walk away from a job that he's had for years because at the end of the day, peace of mind is priceless. And he also said he's just at the point of it in his life now. He's 70.
Wow.
That peace is priceless.
Sure. And I believe that. And your happiness and satisfaction shouldn't be compromised. And wouldn't it be great if we got to always live without, suffering and whatnot? But sometimes life is that suffering. Sometimes there is that frustration. So Sydney, with you, I say, I see you and I feel you. And that's a lot. That's a lot to face at a time where you might be just trying to, cruise on through and not have big change. But I find that when change comes knocking, you got to kind of answer and open the door. And it doesn't mean you have to let it in, but it means you have to ask it, what the heck are you doing here? So with this particular conversation, I might say, okay, Sydney, let's take a look at what's happening at work. Let's look at the opportunities you have there. If this is a job that you are passionate about and really is a great place for you, have the opportunities at work been explored to seek support? Are there other avenues? Are there ways that you can perhaps try to manage it differently? Or are we just beyond that point? I don't know. But I think it's worth exploring. How did we get here? And have we done everything necessary if it indeed aligns with your hopes and your goals and what's authentically right for you? If not, I think this is an interesting opportunity to say, well, why is opportunity knocking? What should I be listening for?
Because that's powerful, Michaela. This is powerful. Powerful. I love it.
I mean, the universe is getting me there. I don't know, but because the universe, my coach always says to me, the universe wants what you want. When you put it out there, right, it's going to come to you unless it's not really what you want. And at that point, might be barking up the wrong tree. But I think it's worth the moment or two or hour questions of, so what do we do about this? Because it's not hopeless. There's opportunity. It just needs to be asked the right questions. So I would start there. And if you've noticed, I'm a big fan of questions. I like a lot of questions because I don't have answers. I don't. I could not tell you or anyone else what to do. But I love that. I know that you know in your heart that we can figure that out. So
awesome. I love that. I thought that was powerful, that the universe has come knocking. And so the question is, what side of the door are you going to stand on? I think that's powerful because sometimes change is inevitable and we have to embrace it. And for me, peace of mind is priceless. I'm sorry.
I totally Sydney hit the nail on the head there. I mean, we should be happy, but I don't want to sound fanciful, right? Like life is not without suffering. Life is happiness and suffering, and that's just the reality. It's how you kind of keep them in check, right? We cannot control a pandemic. We cannot control an unforeseen accident. We cannot control spilling coffee on ourselves on the way to work in the morning. Maybe we can influence that, but the point is, it happens. So life has suffering. And if we dwell on the suffering and we live in that place and just say, I'm okay here. I'm going to sit here in this suffering land because I have no options and I have no choice. It's all happening to me.
Yeah.
Well, I would disagree with that, and I would help bring you through to a different seeing, a different perspective. That
You
would
have
be my,
another question. You have another
okay, great.
question,
Which
and
one?
this question is from uh, Tamsha. I'm not sure if I pronounced that, girl. Sorry if I didn't pronounce
Hello,
that correct.
Hamsha.
Tamsha. And Tamsha wants to know how to maneuver through being a new mom, having to get ready to go back to the workplace that she's not really ready to do.
Yikes. Well, congratulations. That is really exciting. But I also know that when people talk about congratulations, you just had a baby, it gets very
Yeah.
easy for me to say that because my kids are 7 and 10 and I got sleep last night, right? So,
Exactly.
so I understand that, there's this idea that mothers are just supposed to be so happy and grateful to have all of, oh, and you have your job and all of that is true. But at the end of the day, you want to know, how do I get up so early and get ready for work and get the baby ready and do all these things and have coffee before I get there? Right? Like it's a lot to do that. And so again, I would say, let's take a look at, what do you have as opportunities? What is already sitting in front of you for support with your child, support with household duties?
Yep.
What people do you have in your life that for the next 2 weeks might be able to come and offer you some reprieve? And it's just looking at what you already have going for you, because while I know in that sleep deprived way of being, in that, oh my gosh, I have to keep this human alive and a roof over its head,
Yep.
it can feel like a lot. And that's not what we want, right? We don't want to live in overwhelm, but overwhelm can be real. So let's kind of disperse it a little bit. I would also then say, okay, what is most important? Again, back to those values and those needs, right? Because sometimes we have to really get granular. And for me, and I've talked about my dishes before, I don't know why I'm stuck on my dishes, but
That's
I
okay.
had to learn that dishes could be done less frequently. I didn't have to have them all done all the time. I didn't have to have, a perfectly clean sink and kitchen, because if I tried to do that, I compromised having even that 10 minutes to snuggle my baby at the end of the day.
Yep.
Right? So we look at behaviors. How are you scheduling your time? Are you scheduling your time? Meaning, are you making sure that you will get some sleep? Are you making sure that there is time for food so that you can have the endurance and the nourishment to get through this? Because I won't lie, it doesn't necessarily get easier. Life continues to be busy and the challenges just become different ages and bring different obstacles with kids. So building that value system and structuring your time and the way you interact with life to align with that. And I think really, I go back to the first point I made. Sometimes the hardest thing to do is to ask for help.
Yes. I agree.
I'm still not super fluent in that because I'm the mom. I should be able to do this. I can look at all those other moms out there doing it. Wow, they're crushing it. Why aren't I? But I'm just not a Pinterest mom, I guess. I'm not that mom. I'm not. So I've had to learn to ask for help and to say, while I could handle this and that and the other thing, I really just need some help. So what is available to you? What opportunities do you have that maybe haven't been tapped? How do we practice building that courage to ask for help or say, I need fill in the blank? And then working on how you structure and schedule your time with respect to what's necessary for the safety and security and necessary for you and your health and your well-being. Because without that, that's how I ended up, I believe, where I was I chose every need of my family over any need of my own. And what I found was I thought I was doing them a service. I thought I was being the best mom, the best wife, the best everything. And I just got smaller.
Exactly.
So we would work on how to get bigger, how to create more space for you. But
Well
thank you
said.
very much for asking. That was I know it's hard. I know it's hard to say I'm scared. What do I do?
Mr. Blickstein has just sent a message over and he says, "Hi, Mr. Blickstein.
Hi.
He said that he has a daughter, 18 years old, who's extremely spoiled. He and his wife uh, pampered her because she's the only child, and now she doesn't understand the value of a dollar. He wants to know once again, how can he reach you, and are you available for private sessions?
Mhm.
Just additional information about
Sure.
next steps with that situation.
Sure. Great question. And kudos to you, Dad. Like, good for you for being able to speak up and draw light to that, because I know as a parent, I take everything my kids do and I own it, but I don't necessarily want to tell the world, oh, my kids are spoiled, right? So kudos to you. She's in the right. That's me, right? We all want to look like we know what we're doing, right? So I appreciate, and I think that she's a step ahead because you are aware. And I think that's wonderful, because now she's got your support and there's no confusion as to how we got to this place, right? So now she has the opportunity of your love, your support, your motivation, and your accountability to back her up through whatever changes are necessary. So for this, I would also think to you, we might want to look at, is the inability to manage a dollar and to hold value to a dollar the real obstacle here? Or what is it that we can do to help get her motivated towards that, right? So maybe it's just that she wants your attention, and that getting that dollar and having, daddy's dollar coming her way, maybe that's gratifying to her. Who knows? So we would look at what it is that's got her held up. Does she truly just not care? Or maybe she hasn't really been taught, right? So maybe it's finding those resources to say, let's talk about credit card debt, sweetie, right?
Yeah.
And getting her involved in that. For me, very quickly, if I wanted a car, I had to pay for a third of it. Mom paid for a third, dad paid for a third. And I knew very quickly that I didn't want a big, expensive car, because I didn't really want to pay for a car, right? So I got a more affordable car, and it was great, easy. And her name was Betsy. She was awesome. But I learned very quickly that I had to be realistic about my expectations. I wasn't going to get a Mercedes like we were talking about earlier. I wasn't going to have that. But I also knew I had to put the work in for it, right? So building in those small behavior systems, that accountability for her. I'm not sure what her employment situation is, but that can all be controlled and managed when there's an agreement that you'll be doing this together. So for me, I would gladly work with her, work with you guys to identify what behaviors are most in need of modifications. We could do this in hourly sessions. It could be done in half-hour sessions, one each for you each. Or it can be done together. And it's really, that's the beauty of the work that I do, is that it is uniquely crafted for you, for your situation, because my obstacles, while the root of them might be comparable and applicable to obstacles you have, that Carla has, that our other presenters will have or have had. But at the root of it all is we have this shared desire to grow and to connect, and that's what we look for. We look for those parts that can help you two grow stronger, so that she can see differently and have a better, stronger life down on the other side, and let her ripple, create betterment for other people.
Sounds awesome. Spoiling children is
I mean, listen,
difficult not to do. It's difficult.
that's what I'm
not
saying. Like,
to do.
I want to spoil my kids. I want to give my kids everything. And there have been times in my life where I surely did, maybe still do, but it has to come with the balance, right? It can't just be you get the cookie every time. And it can't just be you get the cookie without the broccoli,
Right, exactly.
So it's
Exactly.
and for me as a parent, it's really on me. It's my consistency, my diligence to that behavior change, to that
It has to be a
desire
balance. It
for my
has to be a
kids.
balance. It has to be a
Yes,
balance. It has to be a balance.
absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
We
Thank you for the
have a
question.
question in from Samantha. And Samantha says, hello, Michaela.
Hello.
She said that she's newly married, that marriage
Congratulations.
is overrated. She may be in over her head and doesn't know what next steps are regarding that.
Wow. Good for you. Good for you for identifying at whatever point in time you are that you
Yeah,
don't feel aligned with the place that you're in. Because that is also very challenging.
yeah,
Because just like becoming a mom, as we were talking about earlier,
yeah,
becoming a wife, a spouse, a partner, in that commitment, we think, right? Like we go through these steps of life and we get to this point, we become the wife, the husband, whatever. I'm just supposed to know what to do. I'm just supposed to understand it. But they don't tell us that stuff. I don't know who they is, right? But like,
me
you know,
either.
we
I don't
watch
know who they is either, but
watch
I
TV.
understand.
I don't know who they, but at the end of the day, like no one prepares us for this, right? It's what we expect and how we make sense of those things. So I feel you. I mean, these are big decisions, and this is your one beautiful life, and we all want it to be the fullest. So I would look to say, number one, well, what were you expecting? What was the expectation? Because you know we want it to be the Hallmark movie or the prime time, beautiful, happy story. I don't know. And it's really not, right? So I have found in all of my life experiences that marriage is just the signing of the paper. That's what it is, friends. Like it is just that contractual agreement saying I'm in this and I agree to our financial, our lifestyle, like we're in this together and we're going for it. And that's real and that's very important. But the love comes from a trust, knowing that that those expectations are shared. So it would be a great conversation of to you, what did you expect? What did your husband, your spouse expect?
Right.
And where's the gap? Because somewhere there's a big gap because maybe it's the lack of love. Maybe it's just that you thought you'd never have to take out the garbage again, right? But those expectations can be addressed and either modified to find some kind of comparison or compromise, or what they can do is tell us that we really are in over our heads. And we have a lot of love and a lot of great memories to back this up. And this got me to this place, but I'm feeling compelled to live a different way, and this doesn't work. Um, and there's a lot of opportunity there within too. There is no absolute here, but it's really about the question of what were you expecting? What do you really want? And why do you want that? What is it that you want out of it? Were you hoping for more independence? Were you hoping for, a bigger cheerleader to follow your entrepreneurial or
Yeah.
aspirational goals? Because those things are available too. I find that my husband is incredible and we do great together. But when I really want like someone to get excited about the little things, I call one of my girlfriends.
Yeah.
And that's not his fault, but he doesn't care about the pair of shoes I found. I don't know, whatever it is. But so
Right.
it's understanding the role that you play in there. Are you actively engaged in that role? And are you living up to what you promised? Or are those promises not working anymore for you? In which case, maybe we rewrite those vows. Maybe we rescript that promise.
Yeah.
Or maybe we just say, well, what do you really want?
She
So
said
that's where I
thank
would
you.
start.
She said thank you, Michaela.
You're welcome.
Now, as we bring your segment to a close,
Okay.
what are your parting words? What do
Hmm.
you want the viewers to know?
So what I want you to know is I get it. I get that life is messy, but I also believe it's truly beautiful. And I have found through my experiences that being able to cull through some of the not so fun parts of what happens inside my head and my heart and in my life
Yeah.
really brought me to a place where I could stand strong and say, I want better for me, because when I'm better, my children, my husband, my family, my business, my community, my on and on can get better too. And when we have a whole team of people who are willing to turn up the glow, Carla, our participants today, the panelists, the world gets brighter. And I don't think anyone could argue that we need a little extra light. So that's one. So do check me out. Head over to Instagram, go to @myjoycoach. But I really, really want to beg of our crew today, as you listen to my story, don't isolate my story as just one occurrence. My story has been written 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times over, where a passion is driven from what feels like desperation, right? When life gets tough, when you feel like you don't have the choice of going back to work and managing the family and doing all these things and rewriting the past.
Yeah.
Take that deep breath. We have choices. And if you're here today, you have chosen to find a space where empowerment lives. Men, women, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. All these beautiful humans. We are all in need of empowerment. So whether it's with a coach, with me, with Carla's podcast, find opportunities that you can embrace your vulnerability, your hopes, your dreams. And as you listen to these stories today, figure out where yours fits in. What similarities do they have that you can take from so that you can help progress your best self? So that you can say, I may not be an educator, but I can take something from this and I can put it into play tomorrow, because that's how we grow, right? One of the greatest podcasts I ever listened to was about dog training. I learned so much from dog training. And it's in that mindset, that behavior, those ideas, and that hope that we can all apply a little more to our journeys. So that's what I got.
We thank you, Michaela. Bye.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Have a great
Appreciate
time.
You too. Thank you.
Much
See
love.
you later. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Now, oops, technology. Our next panelist has been an educator for over 25 years, and she is no stranger to the idea of empowering women through education. Her motto is simple: now is the time. Never put off for tomorrow what you can accomplish today. Miss Bennett, are you ready? With your professor glasses on, are you ready?
I am ready. Absolutely. Absolutely. I just want to say hello and thank you, Carla, for inviting me to be a part of this wonderful podcast for empowering women. I think this is an important platform. And I really enjoyed the life coach, Michaela. Some of the things that she was talking about are things that we as women really need to think about as we are moving through this journey in our life. And one of the things, very powerful. And I mean, I was sitting here nodding my head and saying, yes.
I saw you.
Yes, nodding my head, because I'm like, very, very powerful. And I hope that the women that are listening, or even some of the men, because I see that there were a couple of men who chimed in, which is excellent too, that they really take those words and really think about some of the things that she was talking about, because I think that we need that in our lives. So I can go on and on and on about that. So I'm not going to take that kind of time, but I do want to say my whole purpose for being a part of this podcast is to share information about women going back to school, and specifically moms going back to school, because sometimes we get in a place in our lives where we have raised our children, and maybe at one point in time we wanted to go back to school, but because the children came or the marriage came and life happens, we didn't get the opportunity to either finish or we didn't get a chance to start. And so what I'm here today is to really be able to share some information with you guys in terms of, why do I want to go back to school? Maybe I'm 40, maybe I'm 50, maybe I'm 60 years old. I'm here to tell you, you're never too old to go back to school. And you're definitely never, ever too old to reinvent yourself as well. A short little story about me. I've worked for many, many years in education. Carla told you over 20 years, 25 years in education. But there was a point, and I've only worked in education, believe it or not, I've only worked in education. But there was a point in time where I was working for a university. I was definitely climbing the ladder in the university that I worked in, and I had given them 7+ years and got laid off. And never saw that coming. And I had to really think about what were my next steps. What did I need to do to either go back and maybe try to do what I was doing before, or did I need to go back and try to reinvent myself? So my goal was to go back and reinvent Yolanda. I wanted to be the best that I possibly could be. I didn't look at the layoff as something that was tragic. I looked at it as an opportunity for me to go back to school, get some necessary skills that I really wanted, and to be able to have the credentials that I needed in order to move forward in my life. So I am encouraging women, young, old, I'm a woman of a particular age. So
Right.
so I am encouraging women who want to do that to go back and, to really think about what your focus is. And I know, Carla, you have some questions for me. So
I do.
I'm going to sit back and let those questions flow.
I do, because they're burning up the chat here. So it looks like Cynthia. Hi, Cynthia. Cynthia from the Bronx said she too is at a job that she's been at for over 17, 18 years. There's no growth. I'm assuming from what she has placed in the chat that she was moved to a different department, or the department that she worked at is closed, and now she's working under a new group of managers who they don't see eye to eye. And as per Cynthia in the Bronx, says that she's ready to tell them to kiss her butt. Well, she said something different, but Cynthia, I'm not going to go there right now, okay?
Right.
She's ready to tell them to kiss her butt and to just figure out what her next steps are, because once again, we have another person who said that she is too old for the nonsense and that you can't get up every day worried about someone saying something not very nice to you and you just having to swallow it.
Right.
Cynthia says that what she's learned from joining the 50 crew is that you're not going to tolerate someone speaking disrespectful to you.
True.
You're not going to tolerate it because it's unnecessary. Because at a certain point in your life, especially in a management position, you should know how to interact with people. If you don't know how to interact with people, you shouldn't be a manager. Now, this is what Cynthia says here. So Cynthia wants to know, what are your thoughts?
Well,
Cynthia says that Cynthia is 53.
Okay, that's okay. We're in the same age range, Cynthia.
All right.
And you know what? And I understand that. And she's absolutely correct. I think that for all of us who have been, because I've been an administrator for years, and I think that we all get to that point in our lives where, we've been there, done that. This is not our first rodeo.
No.
And I think that sometimes, I don't know about you guys, but I know about me. Sometimes it's really hard for me to put that little tick and lock on the lips.
Yeah.
because of that. And I think that when you are in those situations, I think you have to reassess it. Is it important for you to say something because you know you're right? Or is it important to say something because you need to get it straight? And a lot of times we're so quick to want to get it straight where we're not really looking at what the situation is. And I had to learn that the hard way. I also had another manager speak to me in a very disrespectful way.
I know your mouth. Your mouth.
Right. I'm a girl from the hood, but I'm very, very educated. So
And what hood would that be?
I grew up in Detroit.
From the D? Shout out
Right.
to everybody from Detroit.
Absolutely. So, in all honesty, what I had to do was stop, think about it, because I wanted to know, why did this person feel that it was important for them to think that they could disrespect me? And I let them know that. And I said, and I was very clear. Your tone did not work for me. If there is something that you need to speak to me about, then let's talk about that. But your tone is not going to get you the answer or the behavior that you're looking for. And that's just that's my model. And I say it. It's not going to get you what you're looking for. So if there's something going on, then let's talk about it. I can understand we all have bad days.
Yeah.
But this is not the way we're going to do that. And that's how I've had to be in business. And I had to learn to do that, because the first thing that was coming to my mind, who the you think you talking to? But we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. We really need to sit back and assess what that situation is, because the person could be having a bad day. Let's just be honest. They could be. But you can't disrespect me.
Or they could just be miserable with their life.
Absolutely.
Or they could just be miserable.
Absolutely.
Because a bad day could be every day. Okay.
A bad day could be, and that's not my business.
No, I hear you.
But you're going to respect this space. So I hope that answers your question, Cynthia.
Oh God.
Try to be very political.
We have a Barbara from Brooklyn. Where Brooklyn at? Shout out to everybody in Brooklyn.
Hey, Brooklyn.
Barbara said that she's 45. She has 2 adult children. She's interested in going back to school, but what are some of the challenges that she's going to face going back to school? Because the kids now are crazy. That's what Barbara says. And so how does she fit in? Or how does she become comfortable in a situation that's completely new? And then also there's a part 2 to this. Mm-hmm. She would like for you to discuss the difference between, should she get a certificate or a degree? Okay. And well, there's a third part to the question. She just wants to know a little bit about, how to select a school.
Okay. I love all of those questions, Barbara. Those are excellent questions. Let me just first start off saying you are definitely not too old to go back to school. From time to time, or for not even time to time, for many years, I taught GED. And most of the students who came through our program were women who were over the age of 35 and 40. Had a lot, very few young people, very, very few young people. And so one of their issues that they were having was, I've been out of school for a long time. How do I even get myself into really going back to college? Because I think that I'm too old for this. But you're not. You are definitely not too old. And believe it or not, when you do go back to school, you're going to see that there are going to be lots of people that are your age returning back to school. And one, they're returning back because for certain jobs today, you need certifications. Or you want to be certified in something that either goes along with the job that you have or the career that you have, or maybe you're starting to venture out into another aspect of your career. And so I think that you have to assess, where do you want to be in terms of, do I go back for a degree? Do I go back for another degree? And then what am I going to use that degree for? Because that's the key. Some people ask, some people want to go back for a doctorate degree. And I always say, why are you going back for a doctorate degree? And what are you going to use it for? Because, why spend another 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years going back to school if you have no intentions of using that and you just want to do it just to be doing it? Well, that's kind of a waste of time. So think about what you want to do with that. Do you need the degree to advance financially or to take you to the next level? Or can you get a certification? Because certifications are really big today. And more women are going into careers where all they need is a certification. So think about that. Think about what it is that you want to do and what do you want to utilize that for?
So let me stop you right there. Certification, what are some courses that a mom, I mean, I'm sure there's a ton,
Right.
but what are, just off the top of your head, what are some courses or certification programs that a mom returning back to school could take that would possibly catapult her into a job within 8 months?
Right. Oh, love it. Right now, one of the several of the big key things, if you are in healthcare, going back, getting a certification for being a paralegal. Most programs, if you're going through, and I work at a community college, and I'm going to tell you right now, your local community college is the place where it's at. If you're going to go through certifications and you want to get in something that's not going to take you 4 years, I strongly suggest you go through your community college. With that being said, a phlebotomy certification is great because typically it's only 2 semesters, and then you do clinicals at a hospital or a diagnostic center, and then you sit for your state boards. We have a ton of women in our program every single semester that goes through the phlebotomy program. There's also coding. Coding specialists are great for medical coding and things like that. That is not a long program, and it pays very well. And that's actually a really good position and field to be in if you want to work from home. A lot of the coding specialists do work from home. We also have other things like I'm just trying to think, being a CNA, or those are also great things that you can go into. We also have a paralegal program that we're running where you can get a certification, and that's a little longer, but it's still a certification for going into something that's quick, that you don't have to spend 4 or 5 years, but you can come out getting a really good job. Patient care tech, though that's a big field now in the hospital. That's another certification. If you are a woman who likes to work with your hands, there's welding and manufacturing certifications. Those are all quick hits that women are entering in and coming out making really good money. Really good money. So you, once again, you have to decide, do I want the 4-year degree or advanced degree? And what do I want it for? Or do I want to enhance what I already have, but I just need I need some credentials? That's what that certification is for.
Awesome. Is there funding for women that are going back to school? And if so, where would they find that? Or where do you look?
Yes, there's definitely funding for women to go back to school. There are all types of grants that one can apply for. If you are going back through a community college, which I'm still going to suggest, that is the easiest way to get the information that you need.
Okay.
You would sit down with your financial aid person and ask them about those grants. There are tons of grants. Also, believe it or not, I know, Carla, you call yourself the Google doctor.
Yeah.
You can Google and find grants for women going back to school. As simple as that.
Oh, okay.
And there's a list of them. And there are things that you can apply for right online. But absolutely, there is funding.
We have a question in from an Amy, and Amy's from Detroit. Hey, Amy.
Hey, Amy, Detroit. From the D.
From the D. One of Detroit's finest, I'm sure. She wants to know, she said she has an associate degree. Her company just went out of business. It looks like she had been there for about 10 years. The question is, what will she be able to do with the associate degree that she have when trying to utilize the certificate programs? Or should she go back to school to get a bachelor's degree?
Well, I don't know what her associates is in.
Yeah, she didn't say.
Okay. So, it depends on what that associates is in. If she is going back because she wants to look for a more professional job, and I don't know what
she just said that she has bills to pay and that the company went out of business. We're not laughing at you. It's serious.
Right.
Yeah,
Because we understand. That's
yeah,
what we're
she has
laughing at.
bills to pay, and that, being with the company for 10 years, you would have thought they had the decency to at least give them 30 days notice, and they didn't. And
Oh,
so
wow.
literally they just found out yesterday, and now she has to pick up the pieces and figure out how to provide for her children, because she said her husband ain't, y'all gonna stop cussing because I can't use those words. Her husband is essentially not providing for the family,
Oh,
and she needs to find work immediately. So she
okay.
doesn't know, what should she do
Right.
in
Well,
regards to furthering her
right.
education.
Right. I will say this, you need to find work immediately. That's a given. And I'd say do what you need to do first. And if that's because if you need to pay your bills and you have to make sure that the roof is there, let's do that first. School is not going anywhere. So let's establish that and be okay with that. Do what you need to do first and get the income you needed. And then after that, I would suggest let's now sit down and reassess the situation. Am I going to be working at this job that I had to take immediately? If not, then what do I need to do to get to the next job or the next career that I want? And I would start that way. I would not try to go to school and do all of that if you need to provide. Provide first. Give yourself, because see, if you're trying to go to school and you still have bills to pay, it's not going to work out.
Yeah.
It's just not going to work out. So
you have to have a plan.
Right. Absolutely. So provide first. And then I'm going to pump it again. Go over to your local community college and have a sit down and look at what programs do I want to get in and what's going to enhance what I already have. And if you want to go back for a bachelor's degree, you go back for a bachelor's degree. That's one of the things that I'm going to tell you. But provide first, because if you say you need to pay bills, you got to do that first, and then you can sit down and reassess that. But I go back for the bachelor's degree if you want that, but know what you're doing with that. Don't just go back for the sake of doing it.
Tommy has just sent in has a question. Hey, Tommy, I don't know where Tommy's from, but hey, Tommy. Tommy wants to know if there were 5 tips that you could give to the viewers today about furthering their education. What would it be? I don't know if Tommy's in school. He's not in school. I don't know.
Well, I think my first tip, and there are 5 good tips. I think my first tip is you really want to build a support system around you. And I'm going to use that very carefully, because I know some people will say, well, my husband or my wife or, my kids are not going to support me. That's not necessarily what I'm talking about. The support system, and I mean, that's great if your family is there for you. Wonderful. But when family is used to mom being at home and taking care of everybody, it's kind of hard for those individuals to now have to shift gears. So I'm saying to you, build your support system when you go back to school around some of the colleagues or your classmates that you're working with. Get involved in some other activities within that college or that community college where you can have a sounding board for yourself. If it's not your family, use your resources at the school that you're going to attend. Or if you are, faith-based, use that as well. But you have to build a support system around you when you venture back into school. Also, know your schedule. Know your schedule. It takes a lot of time to get through school, whether you're going back for a degree, advanced degree, or you're going for a certification. Know your schedule. You won't be able to accomplish it successfully if you haven't made time for it. And so you got to make time for this new journey. Also, do what makes sense financially. And I think we were just talking about that. I just mentioned that.
Yeah.
Do what makes sense financially for you. If you know that you can't afford to take 4 classes, then you take 2 or you take 1. But do what makes sense financially. The point is you're still doing it. You may not be, you know, a sprinter in it. You may have to do the marathon, but definitely do what makes sense financially for you. And fourth, my big thing is know your end goal. Why am I going back to school? Am I saying I'm going back to school just because I want to go back to school? Not a good reason to just go back to school. Is it for self, you know, interest? Okay, that's fine. But that's a goal too. You're doing it for self-interest.
Right.
Or are you doing it because you know that that next job or that next career needs those qualifications or needs that experience or credentials? So know your end goal. Why am I doing this? Because once you set the goal, then you're going to, you know, move full steam ahead because you have a goal in mind. So know your goal. And last but not least, for the 5, enjoy the journey. Enjoy it because it's sweet in the end.
Are you dancing over there in Chicago? Okay. I see you. I see you. But I think also in taking these classes, you want to get passing grades. You want to do well in your courses. Yeah. Because someone just submitted a comment and said they're interested in going back to school. If they pass a class with a C or D, is that still considered passing? Has anything changed since I've been in school? Because I don't know.
Nothing really has changed.
Okay.
And that person asked an instructor that what?
Because you're an instructor, so hey, if I get a D,
no. And here, let's be, you know, we're playing, but let's be serious about it. No, you don't want to get a D because if you are receiving financial aid, that can jack up your financial aid in the end because you can't keep getting D's and you're going to have to repeat some of those classes again. And then now you're using financial aid that you could have had for
further advancement.
Yes, for A's and B's. So we don't want to do that. So let me give you the reason why, or let me tell you, you don't have to get a D.
Yeah.
For those of you who may have some issues going back to school, we're all challenged when we go back and we're learning new things. I want you to take advantage of the resources that the school has for you. That means that you will go to tutoring. That means that you will sit down with your instructor and walk through any process that you need to walk through if it's challenging. So we're not going to talk about D's. We are leaving up out of there with A's and B's, folks. A's and B's. So take advantage of the resources that are provided for you. And you don't have to worry about those D's. So don't do D's. C, you know, sometimes it happens. I've got a couple C's in my life, but we don't want to do D's.
How, if a mom wants to go back to school? Okay, so one, you suggested to go to your community college.
I do.
What department are they going into? Like, where do you go once you get into the school for further information about furthering your education?
Mm-hmm. Good question.
It's been a while.
I know, right? Right.
No idea.
I know. The first thing you want to do is contact your community college. Chances are they will put you in touch with an academic advisor.
Okay, yeah.
And the academic advisor will sit down with you, or an enrollment specialist. Either one will sit down with you and walk you through a plan. And those are great people to talk to. It's either going to be your academic advisor or your enrollment specialist. Okay. And let me say this with the community college. I'm not sure how it is in New York, but in Chicago, more than likely you're going to take a placement test. And don't let that scare you guys. Don't let, even at the community college level, it's not a placement test to say whether you pass or fail. It's a placement test to determine where you are in your education. So the best courses can be picked, or you can pick the best courses based on what you need. So don't think that it's a placement test to say, oh, I can't get in. Not true at the community college. Definitely different at a 4-year university.
Okay. At the community college, if someone has a degree, but they want to further their education at a community college, will they take the credits that you already have and apply them, I guess, to the entrance exam?
Well, here's the thing.
Or how does that work?
Right. I think that's going backwards, if I could say, because if you already have a degree, I'm not sure why you would be at a community college unless you're going back. Maybe you want to pick up a certification at the community
Okay,
college.
okay.
And usually when you're picking up certifications, you the prereqs and all of that stuff are only for that certification.
Okay.
So it's
Okay.
not like you have to come in and I got to have, so many hours of science and so many hours of math. Whatever that certification is, whatever those courses are within that, that's what you're going to take.
Yeah,
There's
because we
no
just got a question in. Yeah, we got a question in regarding that.
Okay.
There was no name, but thank you so much for that question because that was helpful pertaining to the topic. So I have a Candy who, hey Candy, I'm not
Hey,
sure where Candy is from, but Candy wants to know, she's interested in going back to school. She's a mom of 5. She's 62 years old. Do you think that she should take more than 2 courses? Or should she wet her feet first to become comfortable with being back in school? And then, as she builds her level of comfortability in the situation, proceed full speed ahead?
I'm going to answer yes to all of that.
Okay.
I'm going to answer yes to all of that. Candy, you know what you can handle at this point. And going back to my 5 tips, what's your schedule looking like and what makes sense financially for you? So 2 classes is not a lot of classes to me,
Okay.
but it may be a lot of classes for you if your schedule is really busy or you still have children at home that you're caring for. So that, yes, that may be a factor. So know your schedule, know what makes sense for you financially. 2 classes is not difficult at all. If that's where you can, if you can start there, I say yes, go ahead and start there. And then once you do get comfortable, maybe the next semester you take 3 classes, or maybe in the summer you decide to do, just summer classes and you do the shorter schedules. Whatever it is that's going to make you comfortable, I say yes, you go for it.
Awesome. Cassandra from Texas.
Hey, Cassandra.
She wants to know a little bit more about your background and how can she reach you for more guidance on
Okay.
some particular questions she may have.
All right. So my background, I have 20 plus years in education.
That's a long time.
It's a whole heck of a long time. I've been a literacy tutorer. I've been a literacy instructor. I've also been a parent coordinator. In addition to that, I have been an administrator where I led a department of academic advisors. I'm also an instructor. I teach GED and English as a second language. And in my current role, I am an education specialist where I work with healthcare students and I do supplemental instruction in addition to writing curriculum and putting curriculum together, working grants and things like that. So it's all education. That list is long.
Tamika just sent a message in. Hey, Tamika.
Hey, Tamika.
Tamika from Chicago, actually. So she's from
Hey,
your
Tamika
side
from
of town.
Chicago.
Tamika says, what makes you a doctor? You're a doctor of education, but what exactly does that mean?
Oh, I like that question. Let me think on that, Tamika. Let me think on that. What makes me a doctor? Well, Tamika, let me tell you, that $75,000 that I had to pay to get this degree made me a doctor. So,
what makes you a doctor?
What makes me a doctor? So, yes, the courses that I've taken and the advanced, I'll put it like this, the advanced knowledge that I have in terms of education, because my concentration is educational leadership. And so with the years of experience that I have in education, I wanted to put that to use and I wanted to build a credential around that. And so in order to do that, I needed to become a doctor. I didn't write the rules, I just followed. So if I wanted to put any kind of credential around that, I had to be a doctor. And not only that, I have future goals as well. I aspire to be a dean of a program.
That's
right.
interesting.
I aspire to be fully involved in curriculum development and faculty development. And in order to do that, I had to have the title of doctor. So that's why. I hope that answers your question, along with that $75,000 that I paid for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I just got this in, so I'm not sure how to pronounce this person's name, so I'm sorry if I mess up. Bob Shriek Shack, I don't know.
Just Bob
To know, yeah, wants to know, or says that they're new to the country, their English is not great. They want assistance with learning the language and being able to write the language as well. This is what they have here. What suggestions do you have?
Bob, you are speaking my language. You are speaking my language. I don't know what country you're from, Bob.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Right. I don't know what, and I am very happy and very, I don't want to say surprised, but I'm really happy that you are on this podcast because I was speaking very fast at first. And so now I've slowed my speech down just because I know that you're not from this country and you want to make sure that you can hear and understand everything that I'm saying. So, Bob, you want to get into an ESL program at your local community college, because I think that's the only place that they have ESL programs.
I think so.
That's where you want to start. And I don't know about in New York or where you're from, Bob, but in Chicago, our ESL programs are all free. So that's where you want your first step, is to do that.
Are those courses also taught on the weekends and in the evening?
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Absolutely.
And so essentially you would just contact your local community college for further assistance.
Right, and tell them that you want to enroll in an ESL program.
Are they free or?
Yes, they are free. Here, I know in Chicago they are free. I don't know of anywhere where people would be charging for that. And if they are, you might want to rethink that because usually those programs are funded by the government.
And what credentials do you need? What documentation do you need for those programs? Or will the school give you that information?
The school will definitely tell you exactly what you need, but you need to have some kind of identification as well. Our students that come into our ESL program just come in with whatever documentation they're using in this country, and we get them set up. There is a placement test so that they'll know where to place you. You just don't come in, willy-nilly. We need to know where you need to start. And so Bob said that he has problems with the writing. Well, that will be addressed also in the ESL class too.
How long are the courses?
It depends on the program. Our semester for our ESL program is 13 weeks, but there are different levels. And so depending on where you place will determine what level you are. And then you can go from, level 1 to level 5 if that's the way your school is doing it.
And if someone needs additional assistance after the 13 weeks, do you guys provide that?
Yeah, you just enroll in the next session.
Okay.
Yeah. It's ongoing. It's as long as you need it.
Okay.
Okay.
Excellent. Excellent. Your next question is, and you addressed this before, but I don't believe you gave an email address. Do you have an email address? Because you have folks that are sending comments in and they want to know how to reach you. They want, because they have specific questions that we didn't address here today. So how do people reach you? What is an email? What are your email addresses that they could utilize?
Did you want me to give that out now, or how did you want me to do that?
Yeah, you can do that now. Yeah. How do folks reach you?
Okay, so it's Y as in Yolanda, Y Bennett, and that's BENNETT. So Y Bennett 6684 at yahoo.com.
Okay.
Okay, so that's Y Bennett 6684 at yahoo.com. And I'm always on my email, so.
Excellent. Do you have any parting words? As
Is my time up already? I was
girl, girl, any parting words for
having
our viewers?
well, okay. I think one of the things that I really, really wanted to say to everyone, my parting words was, please do not, ladies, moms, grandmoms, whomever, aunts, uncles, sisters, whomever,
Yes.
do not be afraid to go back to school. You are never, ever too old to go back to school. And the support that you will need and the support that's there can make your life wonderful. And I don't want anybody thinking that they are too old to go back to school. And I think it's because you see so many young people and you don't
That
think
can be intimidating. It can
it
be
can
very intimidating.
be very intimidating. But guess what? You know more than them. And the experiences that you've had in your life only adds to the classroom. And so, because I teach adults, I only teach adult, I'm always drawing on that experience in the classroom, and
Yes.
you're vital to that classroom. So please don't feel like you can't do this. You can. You really can.
And so essentially, we know that going back to school can be challenging, but it can be done. They one need to contact a local school, a community college in their area. They
Yes.
can find that information on Google, contact the school, and then proceed accordingly. But the
Yes.
first
And
step,
I'm sure they've driven past their community college many a times.
the first step is just going. The first step is
Absolutely.
making that phone call, and the rest will fall into place.
Yes, it will.
You want to provide us with your contact information again, because I'm continuing to
Sure.
get folks that want your contact information before you wrap it up. So
Okay.
please give us your email address again.
Okay, sure. No problem. My email address is Y, as in Yolanda, Y Bennett, BENNETT,
Uh-huh.
6684 at yahoo.com.
Well, we appreciate you, Miss Bennett. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day in Chicago. Okay.
Yes,
For informing our viewers on the importance of education. And, the first step is just making that phone call to make it happen. So we
absolutely.
thank you so much, and we will have you back on soon. Kisses.
See you later. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Well, I hope you guys are taking in all of the wonderful information that my panelists are discussing, because they're pretty brilliant and bright, and I'm having a fantastic time. However, it's time for me to introduce my next panelist, who is a financial veteran. She has 30 years of experience under her belt in the financial industry, financial service industry, as both a financial and wealth advisor, all the way from California. Let's put our hands together for Lisa. Lisa, you're up. But we can't hear you. We can't hear you, Lisa. We can't hear you. Oh, we can't hear you. No, we can't hear you. It's on your side, because we're up and running on this side. So you know what I'll do? I'll call you, because I'm not really quite sure what's going on, but I'll call you, and then we'll just take it from there, because that's really weird. Thank you guys for your patience. Technical difficulties, technical difficulties. As Auntie Tab would say, where's production?
How's this? Is this better?
Yeah, because I don't know what's happening with the volume. I mean, we're good on this side. I'm not quite sure what's happening on your side.
Okay. But you can hear me now, correct?
Yeah. I have you up.
Okay. I'm getting a little bit of feedback.
I don't know. That sounds pretty bad.
Okay.
Hold on. Let me see. Let's see. Okay, let me turn that off. All right, Lise, say something. Let's see what that sounds like.
How's this? Better?
We can hear you, but it's not great. It looks like it's something on your side. Are you unmuted on your side?
No, I'm not muted.
No? I'll double check my side, but I'm not muted either. So let's see. Can't hear you. That's pretty weird. Let me just turn you off and maybe turn you back on, but that shouldn't be. All right, Lisa, I'm going to turn you on and turn you back. All right. No, I still can't hear you. That's really weird. Hold on. All right. You want to speak?
I do. So let's get started. Okay. So my name is Sista, and as Carla mentioned, I've been in the industry.
Hold on one second. You're echoing. I don't know. Lise, can you hear me? Hello? Yeah, I don't know what's happening. Well, let me call you because I can't even hear you now. Okay, now it's ringing. Okay, can you hear me? It sounds like we're echoing. All right, go ahead, Lise.
Okay. Sorry that there's a problem with noise. So I've been in the industry, as Carla mentioned, 30 plus years. I started my career actually in Merrill Lynch, and I started at a time where there really were not a lot of women in the business.
Yep.
And that seems to be the case today. There's just not a lot of women in financial services, and it's a great place for women. But again, it's kind of shocking that there's not more women in the industry. So I worked as a financial advisor for about a decade, and then I became a wholesaler. And as a wholesaler, I called on financial advisors, and I was working with many institutional money managers and training advisors. I was also working with them, supporting them, did a lot of training and public speaking, and really very, very vibrant career. It's really great. I then decided to go back to being a financial advisor, and I thought I'd just kind of put in and tell you a little bit about why I like being a financial advisor. It's really what I know, but I think the real thing is I love working with people, and I love helping people. I love helping them reach their financial goals, and that's really rewarding. Great. I love being part of the process. I love to watch that progress as well. So from the beginning to end and children continuing part of their life. It's about keeping them on track, making sure that people don't get in the way of themselves, in the way of those goals, and that means being nervous of the market,
emotions get in the way quite often. So keep them on track is very, very important. Every single day in my career is a different day. Not one day is the same. It's all exciting. There's a lot of responsibility involved. I love being a student of the markets as well. Various trends, corporate announcements, corporate development, as well as really the world. It's a global world, and a global market, a global environment that we're in. So being part of that is being so it's working with people's money is very, very personal. And everyone treats it a little differently, but it's a very personal part of it. And so there's a lot of responsibility that goes along with that. And I love being a part of that, watching the progress. So I thought what I would do is really say, let's get questions to the end. I think that was key. I have 3 different areas that I'm going to touch on. And really how to grow wealth, divorcees, for women, retirees, as well. And before I get started, it's really a question for mostly the women, but when I ask you, is your Prince Charming coming? He's going to be showing up. And I think far too many times we expect that somehow, some way we're going to stumble upon our finances being in order and find that that's not going to be the case. The number one fear today is that people are worried about retiring and the creators of Walmart, elderly people now having to go back to work. That's they probably been sitting up while they were working, and now they have to go back to work.
Lisa, I'm sorry. Can you just check your volume again and see if you, thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Yeah. Is that better?
No, because we can't really hear you.
No.
So maybe you should just log out and then try to pop back in. Okay. Yep.
Is that better?
Lise?
Hi, can you hear me now?
Oh, yes. Thank you. Thank you, viewers.
Oh.
Technical difficulties. Like,
So sorry.
say production. Where's production?
I love technology, but not when things like that go wrong.
Yes. Okay, we appreciate it. You might want to start over, Lise.
I will. I'll start over, and I won't spend too much time.
But you just need to turn your volume up a tad bit on that side. So whatever you did, you did good. You just have to turn it up.
Okay. Is that good now?
A little bit louder? Yeah.
Okay.
Better.
Okay. Good. All right. So I want to say thank you, Carla. Greetings to everybody from wherever you are, all over the world. So happy to be here. It's a real pleasure for me, and I really appreciate the opportunity. So as Carla mentioned, yes, I've been in the industry a long time. It's been 30 years plus. I started as a trainee, what they called back then a rookie at Merrill Lynch. Went through the training program there. I then later went to Smith Barney. I started at a time where really I made up the quota of women for the office. There were 3 of us and we were 10%. And sadly, those numbers really haven't changed today in our industry. We have a few more women, but nothing where it really should be. And it's a great industry for women, very, very much so. So I was an advisor for over a decade. I then became what they call a wholesaler, calling on financial advisors, training them, educating them. I worked for several large institutional money managers, very, very well-known names, and bringing institutional strategies to their individual investors. And so that was a very rewarding career. I then decided to go back to being an advisor for the next chapter of my career, and it's been very rewarding, and I love it. And I thought what I would do is just give you just a quick couple reasons why I love being an advisor. I love people in general, working with people. I love helping people achieve their goals, financial goals, their legacy goals. Watching the progress, being part of that progress is really great. And I love keeping them on track. Today there's a lot of influences. There's a lot of information on the internet. It doesn't mean that it's sound information, but you have to be careful and you have to have good advice. And so being a part of that and being able to keep investors, my clients, on track is really, really key. Every day is different. Every single day that I'm working is a different day, and that is also great. There's no monotony in what I do. Things change, the markets change, the economy changes. We have all kinds of geopolitical things happening that affect the markets and affect investments. So every day is different. I love being that student of the markets, and I do a lot of training on my own and continuing ed to keep up. So I love being a part of the progress. Money is a very personal thing for investors, and everybody handles that a little differently, but money is serious, and money is a very personal thing. So being able to work with people and their money is very, very rewarding. I thought what we'd do is hold the questions like we have in the other sessions to the very end, if that's okay. So I'm going to ask you, please feel free to take notes. There'll be a lot of great information here for you. And of course, I'll give you my contact information at the end to be able to stay in touch with me as well. I guess the title really of what I have prepared to speak about is really how to grow and preserve wealth for divorcees, for retirees, for men, and for women. So I work with everybody. Some corporate plans as well. And I've broken it down into 3 parts. So I'm going to touch on retirement. There's not enough time today to cover everything, but I'll do my best ability to try to hit on each part. But retirement, the ABCs of investing, and then lastly, financial fitness. So let's talk quickly about retirement. Retirement is key. And we have baby boomers. There's 10,000 people reaching the age of 65 every single day. And that means retirement is looming. It's right around the corner. And the number one fear today amongst people, baby boomers included, is whether or not they're going to have enough information or retire on. That's the number one fear. And it's a real fear. There's a lot of people that have had to go back to work in retirement, which I know they probably didn't plan on that. But that's because they didn't save enough during those working years. So that's number one. And the other thing, I love to ask this question, how many people think that Prince Charming is coming? He's around the corner on his horse and he's going to come and save the day financially. Well, Prince Charming is not coming. There was a book written, and that's the title, and it's a pretty powerful book. And it talks about how we have to be prepared. All of us have to be prepared financially. We never know when things are going to happen, and we need to be prepared. So let's start right into retirement. Let's talk about, there's 10 common mistakes that people make in retirement. And these are pretty obvious, but sometimes we need to be reminded. The first one is not having a written plan. And I would say, regardless of retirement, investing period, not having a written plan is really something that everybody needs to have. It's your roadmap. It's no different than getting in your car and going someplace that you've never been before. And what is the first thing we do? We probably use our navigation system, which is either in our automobile or on our phone. And that's key to have that roadmap. The second one is spending too much. And I love to use the example of Starbucks. In fact, when I do a PowerPoint presentation, I have a picture of what looks like a Starbucks coffee. And, a lot of people don't realize how much they spend on these little things each day. And I ask clients to write down those expenditures just to be aware. It's not that you have to deprive yourself of these wonderful treats, but it's because sometimes it adds up pretty quickly and we don't even realize what we're spending. The next one is disregarding the cost of retirement. We think that, if we do have Social Security, it's going to be enough to cover our expenditures. When we get into retirement, hopefully our expenditures are going to go down. We're not going to have the same expenditures while we're working for a number of reasons. So we don't realize sometimes the cost of retirement, that it can be pretty high. The other part to that is healthcare. So healthcare expenditures go up in retirement as we age, and that is really a big issue is healthcare expenditures. And I think that is one thing that most don't focus on, but it's very, very expensive. And oftentimes we are house rich and cash poor, and that represents a big problem. And that it goes into one of my other topics, which is liquidating retirement accounts too soon and being either hit with penalties because we're not 59 and a half yet, and also the taxes. And the taxes can be really a big strain. Mistaking news for financial advice. And I liken that to the talking heads. If you watch the news and business channels, while there's lots of great information that they relay during the day and in the evening, oftentimes they are not financial professionals. They are newscasters, and they're delivering the information. And what they say is not necessarily pertinent to our personal situations and to us and to our risk tolerance. And that's really, really key. Another mistake that we make is drawing on Social Security too soon. Maybe not waiting for our full retirement age, not just the fact that we hit 65 and we're able to start pulling Social Security, but waiting to our full retirement age. My age, full retirement age is 67. And you can go on the website for the Social Security Administration and you can put in your birth date and you'll find there what is your full retirement age. If you wait till your full retirement age and receive Social Security at that point, you're going to get far more money than you would if you took it earlier. If you wait until the age of 70, you actually will earn 8% per year between your full retirement age and 70 years of age. And that's free money. That's coming from the government. The government normally doesn't give us 8%, so 8% per year. So when you review whether or not you want to take Social Security and when you want to take it, these are some things that you definitely want to pay attention to and to consider. The other thing is not knowing when to withdraw from your retirement accounts or taking the money too soon. A lot of people want to help their family, their children, their grandkids, but oftentimes that can put you in jeopardy. Not investing wisely and just going on hunches or being ultra conservative, too conservative. The other part is not getting proper financial advice. And, it looks very simple to be on the internet and be able to read through lots of information, but putting it to use and applying it to your parameters, your risk tolerance is a completely different thing. So you want to make sure that you do receive proper investment advice. So let's kind of now move on to the ABCs of investing. There's a couple things that are key. I talked a lot earlier about risk and risk tolerance, and each person has a different risk tolerance. What's going to be right for me may not be the same thing for you, and that's very important to pay attention to that and to not basically ignore it. You just don't want to ignore that. You want to be sure that you can tolerate whatever volatility you're subjecting yourself to based on the investments you're making. You want to achieve proper asset allocation, meaning that you don't want to be over allocated or too concentrated in one or two investments or just a few investments. You want to make sure that you have diversification. That is very, very key. We don't have time to go into that in great detail now, but we can do that at another time. And you want to be able to receive market-like returns. The mean average returns for the market over the course of time has been anywhere from 8 to 9%. And you want to make sure that while you can achieve that type of number of percent returns, that you're going to do that with the least amount of volatility. The problem is that the older we get, we don't have the time to continue to invest and to make back anything that we've lost. That's really the issue. If we're a younger person, we have more time to make that up. Maybe then you can take on a little bit more volatility. Let's talk about Section 3, financial fitness, for a quick minute here. Choosing the right advisor is really key as well. You want to make sure that you have great rapport with that individual. Do they need to be your best friend? Absolutely not. But you want to make sure it's somebody that you trust. You want to make sure that that person is knowledgeable. You want to make sure that they have the proper licenses. Designations are key. I have 2 designations, my SEMA Certified Investment Management Analyst, and I also have my accredited investment fiduciary, and I think a fiduciary is really, really key, and you want to more than likely choose an advisor that is a fiduciary. They always have your best interest in mind at all times. The next one is creating a plan. You want to make sure that you have that roadmap and that you're able to create that roadmap. And you want to make sure that the roadmap is appropriate for you. It's the right path for you. And then you want to review it periodically. You want to make sure that you have a plan to review it. Is it annually? Is it biannually? Quarterly? It depends. And it depends on how many life changes you have along the way. Are you now getting married? Are you now having children? Are you now retiring? Are you having grandchildren? Are you going to move? Whatever it may be. So there's constant things to consider. And probably the next is just adding those changes. Life happens, and we have to be able to make those changes. It's not a problem that we have changes, but you want to incorporate them in your plan. And then you want to keep it going. You want to make sure that you don't just do this once, lock it, set it to go, but you want to make sure that you have this plan in place and that it's flexible, that you can make changes as necessary, and that it's something that you're going to adhere to. So I'm going to see, Carla, if we have any questions at this time, and anything else that maybe you thought I should incorporate into this.
I do have some questions, Lise, and I'm so happy that you were able to get the volume situation straight,
Yeah,
because your information is important. Some of the questions that have come in are, there's a young lady by the name of Tabitha. Hi, Tab. And she wants to know, she says she's just starting out. She's not making, much money hourly, but she wants to start saving for the future. How does she start that process?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I always add to that you're never too early to start. It's always important to begin, to start, plan. And I would say contribute what you can afford right now, determine what that is, and have a savings plan. And if it means that you're going to put it into a savings account at a bank, that's fine. Be careful if you're going to go online and choose these robo-advisors, because you want to make sure that whatever you're going to be investing in the short run, that it's going to be appropriate for you. So I would say start with a savings account. The other thing that you could choose to do is there's mutual funds out there, and you can buy shares of a mutual fund. You don't have to have a lot of money. A lot of these mutual fund companies have minimums of even as low as $50 to $100. And then what you'll do is continue to add to that. And that's a great way to accumulate wealth.
There's an Amanda. Amanda wants to know, hi, Amanda. She wants to know if you're going to teach a course on financial well-being. This is what she has, some type of course to assist those who have no clue what they're doing around money. How to make better decisions, I guess, regarding their building their nest egg.
Yes. In fact, I was doing in-person workshops, but now that we're in this virtual world, I have courses that I'm doing online. and love to have you be part of that. I do have a book that's going to be coming out shortly.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's happening finally. But I do have workshops, and I would love to have you as part of that. And so I
Okay.
will provide my contact info at the end. And maybe what you can do is email me, and then I'll be sure to put you on the list.
Awesome.
Thanks.
What is your contact information, Lise? Folks want to know what is your contact information, and if you have one-on-ones via Zoom, or if they can call in to discuss their finances, because a couple of folks say they need help desperately.
Great. Well, all of the above. So I do a lot of, while I do still do in-person meetings, I do a lot on Zoom every day and a lot of telephone calls. So I'm happy to do either one or both.
We can't hear you, Lise. We can't hear you.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Is that
a little bit better.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, I do. I do all the above. So I'm happy to do online. I'm happy to do over the phone or both, and I do complimentary consultations to get started. So I'd be happy to do that. So let me give you my. Is now a good time to give the contact information?
Please, because I have a few. Well, I have a ton of questions that have come in, but you can give your contact information because people want that. They want that.
Okay, let's do that. So my email is lisa@newportadvisory.com.
Yep.
And that goes directly to my work email. I'll give you another email. It's LCHALLAIAN@gmail. And then my telephone number is 310-994-9402. And my website is lisahalayan.com. www.lisahalayan.com.
Thank you, Lise. We have a LaRonda who, no problem, who just submitted a chat comment. And she said that one of her parents just recently died. So we're sorry to hear about that, LaRonda. We send our condolences. However, they left her $80,000, her and her sister. She wants to know what are a few things that she should do in order to grow her money. Now, it sounds to me like she probably needs to reach out to you regarding, additional suggestions. But she wants to know, what are the first 2 to 3 things she should do with the funds that she has, with the money that she has.
Well, don't run out and buy yourself a whole new wardrobe or a brand new car or anything like that. But be cognizant of the money. And so what I would do is make sure that you're transferring it. I don't know if it came out of a trust, but you want to set up an account and have the money properly transferred into the account. What I do with every single client is I do a financial interview, and I use a program to assess about their risk tolerance, and then from there we invest the money. But you want to determine if you do have some expenditures. Fine, you have to take care of those, but be careful not to spend all that money right away. A lot of people blow through their inheritance.
So we have a Cindy. And Cindy says that she has an older husband that is on his way out at any minute. Hey, listen, this is what she said, okay? Cindy said she has an older husband who is on his way out any minute now. She knows that he's left his financial portfolio to her. What happens when he dies? This is what Cindy said.
Well, it's a great question. It's an important question. I think the first thing is, do you own a home? And does he have a will? Or do the two of you have a will? And do you have a trust set up? And the reason why I say that is because when somebody passes away, we have situations, we have probate. If there is no trust set up, there's probate. So that becomes a very serious problem. And the reason for that is because there's fees that you have to pay for having to go through probate. And the other problem, and the fees are very high. So what they do is they tax the entire estate, this fee. for going through probate because it's a cost to the court system. And then there's a terrible delay, and it could be anywhere from a year to a year and a half, and in some cases it could be longer than that. So you
Well,
don't want
Cindy
to have.
just said, I'm sorry, Lisa, I don't mean to cut you off. She just responded by saying that he has 3 older children that hate her and that
Okay.
they've been giving her nothing but grief since they've been married. And she's worried about them fighting her for the money that or assets that he's leaving her once he does pass
Mhm.
away.
Yes, that's a big part of reality. In fact, I'm faced with some things of my own personally with my family, and it's happening more and more today. It's a very common thing that's happening. So you need to prepare yourself, and you need to protect yourself. And that's why if you have a trust, you want to make sure that documents are in place, and you want to make sure that if they're not in place, get that done right away. There's a lot of attorneys that can do that by phone and by online. You don't even have to go in to meet them,
Oh,
but
that's
you want to
awesome.
make sure that yeah, that you'll have to go have a notary sign, but other than that, you want to make sure that you have medical directives in place. You want to make sure that it is clearly spelt out how the assets are to be distributed and who gets what, because you
Okay.
will have a fight. So yes.
Awesome. Candy just sent in a message, and Candy said that she's newly married, or she's a newly married wife. Wants to know if you think that having a joint bank account is the best option.
Right. So I live in California. California law states that when you get married, you are to open up a joint checking account. And like
Okay.
I said, money is very personal. And I would say this, that it's not a bad idea to, regardless of what your opinion is, it's not a bad idea to have a joint household account where you both contribute to the account and expenditures, monthly expenditures, household expenditures come out of that account. I think that's a good way to handle things. And that way you have records, you have everything accounted for. So I would suggest that. And if you're going to still continue to keep money on your own, in your own accounts, that's fine too. Any separate property that you may have, you want to keep that separate for a lot of reasons. So a joint household account is smart.
Awesome. Uh, Tammy, hi Tammy. Tammy just sent a message in saying that she is going through a divorce with her husband. It's pretty ugly. Um, they're not able to come to a happy medium regarding the assets that they acquired together. Do you have any suggestions for her regarding how to move forward? Because from
Hmm.
what she says, it looks like he's pretty wealthy. Obviously, he'll be able to pay the lawyers to assist him, but she just doesn't want to walk away with nothing because
Right.
she said she's been with this guy for 10 years, her husband or ex-husband for 10 years.
Okay. So there are various things that you're entitled to being married that long. One would be his Social Security, even after divorce, as long as you're
Oh,
married 10 years. So keep that in mind, that down the road. And they do not have to be deceased in order to collect that. One of the other things is that you can, in most states, bifurcate uh, assets. So you can legally get divorced but be able to settle the assets at a later time. I would encourage you, though, not too long. So, unfortunately, you would have to have probably a family law specialist help you with that. And you probably need a family law specialist, especially if your soon-to-be ex-husband is of wealth and means, and you have assets involved. If you didn't have assets, it probably wouldn't be an issue, but because there's assets, so you want to make sure you get your fair share. I live in a community property state, and so that is key. And you want to make sure that you know where things are, that assets have not been hidden, and you want to be able to
oh,
locate.
yeah, that's a good call out that there aren't hidden assets. So, Lise, what if there
Right.
are? What if there are, and you are partitioning a divorce and you find that information out? Are you? I mean, I know every state is different in regards to their laws, but what does that look like?
Right. Well, unfortunately, you have to hire more than likely a forensic accountant usually a private
Oh.
investigator that can do that. And some, for could be anywhere $1,000 to $5,000, but they will locate bank accounts, all kinds of assets, and
Wow.
as much help as you, yeah, and as much help as you can provide is great because Social Security numbers, if you know of bank accounts,
That's
if
crazy.
you know of
It's crazy.
right, brokerage accounts, yeah, yeah. So unfortunately, it would require hiring professionals to help you, but you can do it, and you should do it.
That's really crazy. A Tim just sent a question in, and he says that he's from New York. Hey Tim, we don't know where in New York, what borough he's in, but Tim said that all his wife does is take his money and buy luxury items. He's getting fed up and wants to know if he decides to leave his wife, is it a possibility he'll be able to get some of those luxury items that she's purchased um, during the settlement? I don't know what all that means, but
Yeah, that might be tough. That might be tough. I guess the question becomes: are those luxury goods gifts? If they are gifts, chances are no. You're not going to be able to recoup anything from them. It's kind of tough. You would have to prove that it was, community property that paid for those luxury goods if they were not gifts.
okay.
So that's a tough one, very tough,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Please, can you give your information again, how folks can reach you? Because I'm getting lots of comments about people wanting to schedule appointments with you, because obviously we don't have enough time. Can you just give us your information again as we wrap this up?
Sure. So my cell phone number is 310-994-9402.
Okay.
My email, my office email is lisa@newportadvisory.com.
Okay.
And I also have another email, which is lchallalaian@gmail. And then the website is www.lisahallaian.com.
Lise, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Any parting last words before you leave for our viewers regarding finance? Any 3 quick tips about how to grow your money?
Never too late to start today.
Okay, awesome.
Make sure you have a roadmap, have a plan, know your risk
Awesome.
tolerance, and get sound advice and stick
Excellent.
with it.
We appreciate
Thank
you,
you
Lise.
so much.
See you soon.
Appreciate you. Take
Bye.
care. Take care. Bye.
Family. Well, I'm bringing on my last panelist who I've known for a zillion years. We all know what it feels like to start over, whether it be finding a new job, relocating to a different city or state, or having to gear up and become a single mom with all the burdens of the world on your back, especially after a divorce. It's tough and it's rough, but I'm excited to introduce a person that, once again, like I said, I've known for a very long time. When I think of her, I think of strength. When I think of her, I think of determination. When I think of her, I think of resilience. When I think of her, I think of power. When I think of her, I think of just someone who is an outstanding mother, who doesn't let anything stand in her way of taking care and providing for her children. Miss Laurie, are you there? Are you ready?
I am here and I am ready.
All right. The floor is all yours, ma'am.
So, what Carla didn't say is that we have known each other, and pardon my nasal sound, I live in Georgia, and anybody who's ever been here knows it's a city in a forest, and something is blooming, but I'm going to talk through the stuffy sounding nose anyway.
We appreciate you.
What Carla didn't say is that I don't even remember life without her in it. We have been friends for
Don't
so
make me
long.
start crying, because you know I'll start crying. Oh gosh.
Don't cry. Don't cry. But I don't. When we were young, I thought we were relatives. Like I thought she was my cousin.
Right.
And what's become true over the years, and we are definitely women of a certain age, is by blood or not, what I came to realize is she is my sister in every sense of the word.
You're my sister.
So when she says that she thinks of me in such glowing terms of strength and motherhood and all those things, it means a lot. So what I'm gonna piggyback off something that she started with, starting over. And I definitely have had to do that. My personal story starts sort of in a place where, no one gets married thinking that they'll get divorced, but I am definitely a living testimony that the start over can be the best part of your life. I found myself in a situation where I got divorced with 2 very young children, and I didn't get married young. Like I wasn't one of those people who came out of high school with a high school sweetheart and wanted to get married, or got married in my young 20s. I was probably 30, we'll just say ish years old when I got married. Thought I had done all the due diligence and checked all the boxes on if you're getting a good solid person as your partner, but life tends to happen. So 8 years in to that marriage with a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old at the time, I had enough. And decided, you know what? Nothing is worth my peace. Nothing is worth my sanity. Nothing is worth living in an unhappy state. So I decided to leave. And so, like the last caller, the last panelist described, didn't really know where to start. I just knew I was done, and I knew I needed to equip myself for a battle that I didn't even realize the magnitude of.
But we need to go back though. We need to go back, because if we're gonna keep it real, we need to go back.
All right.
You didn't tell them that you had a house built from the ground up in Buckhead, Georgia. Because I remember being on the phone with you when you were pregnant, and you would walk me through the house, even though I wasn't there, and describe what the rooms looked like, and you were picking out paint.
Absolutely.
For those rooms. Do you remember that?
Absolutely. So starting out in my marriage, we were trying to make good, sound financial decisions, and we built a home.
Yes.
We actually closed on that home a month before we went down the aisle and said, I do.
Yes.
So, and when she says built it from the ground, it was literally dirt.
Yes. I remember that.
So every brick had all our heart, soul, blood, sweat, tears in it. Yeah. And the reason I say that is because those 8 years later, and probably about year 6, so maybe like for 2 years before I actually decided to put the wheels in motion, I wanted to leave. But you know how you do that self-talk? But the house, the bills, the kids, the cars, all the material, and the reasons why you try to stay and you try to work it out and it'll get better. Well,
I want to interject though, because I know you.
Go ahead.
You had a house being built. You had engagement parties in Atlanta and in Detroit. We're all from the D. We're all from the D.
Absolutely. What up, though, to the D?
Yeah, exactly. Shout outs. You had engagement parties and bridal showers in Detroit, engagement parties in no engagement parties and bridal showers in Atlanta. So you were blessed enough to have your home literally furnished after it was built.
Absolutely.
So when you say that you wanted to walk away, I want to give content to this because I know the story.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't just leave with your children and their clothes and your belongings.
Mm-hmm.
You you didn't take any of that with you. You left an entirely furnished house that was built from the ground up with wedding gifts that were still in the garage that you hadn't even opened yet. You
Absolutely.
left a lot. Okay, let me out. Am I saying too much? Because I don't,
No, you're fine. Absolutely. And but you make a good point, because when it got to the point where I was fed up for a lot of different reasons, the stuff stopped mattering. The stuff ceased to matter. It was, let the chips fall where they may. But I have to go. I have got to go. And that point is different for everybody. And anybody who's been in that situation, who's been through a tough divorce or been in an unhappy or even an abusive marriage, knows that moment where all the things that mattered before stop mattering. So when that moment came, I was prepared to do whatever it was that I needed to do. And it wasn't easy to leave. And I would admonish, if especially if we're talking to women about real women things. So I'll say this. The time between leaving and left, and I'm saying that intentionally, the time between I'm leaving and I'm gone, or I have left, separate residence, separate, moved out, moved totally separate, is probably the most dangerous time for a woman leaving a marriage, especially if it's not mutual, if the other party doesn't want it.
Yep.
And we see those stories in the news all the time.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately. And it just grips me. It grabs my heart every time I hear a story on the news, or I see, someone succumb to that emotional pressure, where they feel like the only way that they can handle a situation is to harm somebody that they at one point said they loved.
And that's sad. We send our condolences out to anyone who has lost a child, a family member, to such a horrific act. Our heart breaks for that.
Absolutely. Those domestic situations are real. They are not just stories on the news.
No,
and so I had the good fortune to recognize that things could go left.
Yeah.
And when I say equip yourself, to anybody, that's step one. Equip yourself mentally, equip yourself. If you're a person of faith, prayerfully equip yourself. But if we're keeping real talk, protect yourself. Women, protect yourself, protect your children. And it doesn't necessarily and that can happen in a couple of ways. And that's what I'll talk about. The first thing for me was, if you don't feel safe, no matter what anybody tells you, if you don't feel safe.
Because you know what you're dealing with.
Absolutely. And sometimes you don't. Because those situations are so tearing a family apart, tearing a marriage apart, tearing a household apart. Everybody can't handle it. Everybody can't handle it. And you don't know what'll push somebody to break, or what'll push somebody to irrational thoughts and irrational actions. But what I'm going to say to you is, be prepared and always keep your guard up. So for me, and it's different in every state, for me, that meant, and I'm a peaceful person, but I also know that you got to level the playing field.
Yeah.
And for me, that meant I went and took a firearms class. I learned everything there was to learn about personal protection. I got a concealed carry license. I purchased weapons for protection, not just necessarily against that situation, but now I'm going to be a single mom with 2 very small kids moving about this planet all by myself. So I knew what that meant and I understood what that meant. And I didn't want to just be a mark. I didn't want to just be in a position where, what am I going to do? Beg, plead, please don't, appeal to some irrational person's sense of rationality. Doesn't work. So I would say, and I was a person that was afraid, really afraid of guns most of my life. But what I learned was when you learn about a thing and you understand a thing, you can conquer your fear of that thing. And that empowered me so much and gave me so much more security, just in my own, within myself, within my mind, within my home. And I'm not advocating that anybody do anything illegal. I'm not advocating that anybody do anything violent. I'm saying level the playing field and be prepared for whatever comes your way. Because I was shocked several times at interactions I had with, my now ex, right, with our children present. His sense of rationality went straight out the window, and I wasn't having that. So the second way you equip yourself is get the law on your side. And I see women do this all the time. Yeah, situations don't work out. People split up, and that's fine. But the mistake I see a lot of women make is, oh, you just go on his word, his honor, his integrity, what he says or what he promises. We don't have to go through the court. We don't have to put it on the books. Yes, you do. Put it on the books. Because when it comes to when you decide to split marital property, all of a sudden that amicable person you've been dealing with becomes your arch enemy. And the things that you thought they would never do or say to you, they will do and say to you. So under the law, you have certain rights. And if you can't come to an agreement, because in certain states, before you divorce, mediation is required. And that's where you go to the table with your good sense and fairness, and you talk it out, and you maybe come to an agreement before you have to go before a judge. Most of the time, especially if the divorce is contested, that doesn't work. It didn't work for me. And since we're talking about that same house that Carla mentioned we built, with 2 small children, my ex told me I'm not leaving the house, not until it's sold. So he didn't care that he had small kids and me, his ex-wife, out homeless. It didn't matter, because at that point for him it became about winning.
And what the hell did he win? And just what the hell did he win?
All right. Okay. So I would definitely say equip yourself. And then part of equipping yourself is document everything. There's nothing worse than to walk into a courtroom in front of a judge and you got a whole bunch of, well, he said and she said, because you know what that means to a judge? Nothing. You wasting his or her time, and they will tell you that. So when you get your stuff in order, whether you have an attorney or not, and attorneys are expensive. Everybody can't go out and afford to retain an attorney off rip. So I would say make sure before you do anything, look for the resources available to you in your locality. Different states, counties, just about everybody has legal aid. That has an income threshold to it. So if you can qualify, go get that free legal advice. Sometimes if you do or you don't, sometimes you can represent yourself. That was my case. I had an attorney through our divorce, but don't think that it ends at divorce. My divorce happened over 11 years ago, and we still go to court for contempt, for failure to provide for our children, because that's what works. Sitting down and trying to agree to disagree don't pay bills and it don't feed kids. So once you have your final decree in hand, that becomes your guiding force. So use it, enforce it. Every time I've gone to court, I've refused sometimes to pay an attorney to do what I can do because I'm living it, so I know it. You can walk into your court clerk's office in your county or wherever you live and tell them what you need to do. A lot of times they have forms that you can complete yourself. File your own motion. File your own petition. The proof you have is usually black and white. Either he's supporting or he's not. Either he's adhering to this parenting plan that was set forth in your final divorce decree, or he's not. And if that's not the case, that's what you go to the judge to have him handle. And I found so many times it's not that hard, and it can be intimidating, but I'm at a point where I've gone so much now, and probably will have to go again before it's all said and done. I walk in.
A lot of them know you. A lot of them know you, and they respect the fact that you're serious about taking care of your children, and they've helped you with the documents over the years.
Absolutely. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I see the same judge most of the time, and he just kind of looks at me like, really? Really? But it's true. So I would say also be persistent. You know, a lot of times the system is bogged down and it's not the easiest to navigate. It doesn't move swiftly. So buckle in for the long haul. Don't ever feel like, well, I've had so many well-meaning and intention friends, family members tell me, oh, you know, it's not worth it. You should just, you know, figure that you're gonna have to do it on your own. Nah, that's not my story. That's not my truth, and that's not true. You didn't create these kids by yourself. You didn't create the marriage by yourself. So there's no one-sided responsibility. So for me, it's always about accountability. You know, if you've moved on fully in your mind and in your heart, now if you still got a thing for the ex, and if you still haven't sorted it out that maybe I do want to be here, maybe I don't, that's a whole different conversation for a different day. But if you legitimately are done and you want to be free of that thing, then I'm talking to you. So there were throughout the last, I can't even believe it's been so long, but throughout the last 11 years, early on, because my kids were so young, they were both still in daycare, which anybody with young kids in daycare knows is very expensive. And when you double it up, that's a lot on one person. So I even had a situation where, you know, if you ever need confirmation, or if I ever needed confirmation that I was stressed and needed out of the marriage that was not for me, my children's daycare owner stopped me one day. Carly, you know this story.
I know the story. I already know what you're going to say. I already know.
And she said, what's going on? What's the problem? You come in here on two wheels every day, and you look like you are burning the candle at both ends. What's the problem? And stopped me in my tracks. And I told her, and at that time, I had just separated, moved out, left my house, moved into a little 2-bedroom apartment with my kids until I could figure out our next move. And that daycare bill was more than the mortgage on the house I left. It was more than the rent. And he had decided he wasn't doing anything.
You got to tell the story about how he came home one day and told you that he was done.
Yeah, it's on you. You deal with it. You handle it. Stop picking the kids up. Stop paying for any expenses for them. Just stop. So what do? My life certainly wasn't going to stop. Their lives certainly weren't going to stop. Their needs certainly weren't going to stop. But when you think, a lot of times in those situations, you feel so isolated. Like, how did I get here? Yeah. This could only be happening to me. And little did I know, it happens so often and so frequently. I talk to so many women who ask me all the time, how did you do it? How did you? And the first thing I tell people is it wasn't me. If it was me on my own, I'm sure I would have just broken down a long time ago. But God is all around us. He's in us. And he touches people to touch you. The owner of the daycare, and it was a prestigious daycare, not, mom and pop down the street. And shout out to the mom and pop down the street because we need them. Yep. But in the area where I lived, it was expensive. It was an expensive daycare. And the owner told me, simplify your life. Do what you have to do. Don't worry about this bill until you can take care of it. That is unheard of. And I had 2 kids in daycare to the tune of close to $2,000 a month.
Yeah, but the owner also knew that your ex-husband was going to the school dropping off checks that he didn't have enough money to cover just because he was summoned by the court. Oh, I know too much of your business. I know too much of your business.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry.
So, but what she enabled me to do was not worry about daycare for probably close to until the divorce was finalized. And at that point, it probably was maybe 7-8 months from being finalized. And at that time, and only at that time, when the court ordered it and jeopardized his freedom, did he pay.
Yep.
And when he paid me, I paid the daycare. And I don't know anywhere where that happens. And I know that wasn't luck. I know it wasn't just that, there was something special about me. I know for a fact that was God moving in her, moving in me. And I'll never forget that, ever. But beyond that, even once everything was final, and now, even now, my kids are teenagers, well into their teenage years. And it still, it still happens. It's still a fight that I haven't let go. I won't give up. It hasn't panned out well for him, but I was resilient. I was persistent. Accountability. They're not doing you your exes, especially if you got kids, they're not doing you any favors. It's a matter of still taking care of your responsibilities, your children, your marital debt, whatever that is, even though you're no longer married. And attitudes, who cares? Your personal feelings about it, who cares? It is what it is. And fair is fair. And that's probably one of the biggest battles I've ever had to fight in my life. And I feel like I was equipped for the battle and stayed on top of it. That documentation is important. So if you got, it's one thing, anybody can say anything, but anything you can show proof in writing. So to moms out there with little kids whose dads are saying, oh, I'm a caretaker too, then you go to that school and say, hey, can you print me out the last year's worth or however long it's been, drop off and pick up records. You take that to a judge and say, yeah, his mouth is saying this, but here's what these records show. That's the kind of stuff I mean when I say what's in writing holds far more weight than anything coming out of your mouth. Because in a court of law, what you say and what I say, the judge, the legal term for that is hearsay.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can be lying, he can be lying, but what can be proven is what counts. So I've held on to, I've written on the back of that principle for years now, and I win every time. I use the term win just in terms of, you know, what gets ordered, because I don't think anybody wins when you're battling over what should just be.
Right.
Nobody has to tell me what my responsibility is, especially not to my children. And you wouldn't think that'd be the case for anybody else, but unfortunately it is. So my job as their mom was to hold their father accountable and responsible, because they are all the better for that, not me. I can handle myself. I'm a grown up. But children don't come here able to handle themselves. That's why the law is what the law is.
Unbelievable. And you still live to tell the story.
Absolutely. And you know, I'm saying this to the moms who are in the midst. It's hard. Don't get me wrong. There were plenty of days that I was worn out because I had 2 young kids. I had a career. I had a job that was demanding, and when your home life is demanding. And, you know, as Carla mentioned, we grew up in Michigan, in Detroit. I lived in Georgia. No family. So it wasn't no auntie and them, big mom and them, wasn't nobody I could just go drop my kids off to. If somebody was keeping them, it was costing me money. So sacrifice on top of sacrifice on top of sacrifice. So to every mom out there that's doing it by yourself, my hat is off to you. My heart goes out to you, and you deserve all the jewels in your crown when you get to heaven, because it is a hard job, very hard job.
Amen.
And many a day is thankless, and I know it can be frustrating. You know, you sacrifice your social life, you sacrifice so many things. You know, some I know moms who their kids get, even when the mom doesn't have it, but they don't know that. Mine they're used to get, and we're none the wiser that I'm sacrificing everything and then some. And to a child, that's the way it should be. But the bright side, if you ride it out and do what you're supposed to do, you will definitely be blessed. There's a scripture that talks about everything the enemy takes away, God will give back to you multiple fold, whether it's 7, whether it's 10. Harley, you tighter on that than the scripture verbatim than I am, but I'm a witness that is indeed the case. So I'll just say I've been blessed with good health. I've never been out of work. We've never been homeless. We've never been hungry, because I'm resourceful. If I didn't have it, I was going to find a way to get it. And not by taking advantage of anybody else. And, you know, there's resources available. You can't have too much pride, and you can't be ashamed. Do what you need to do to ensure that your well-being is secure and the well-being of your children is secure. And nobody really knew my struggles, really, except for people who were close to me, like Carla and, you know, close family members. But I've been blessed, and just within this past year, that house that I let go, you know, and financially, I don't know how it is in anybody else's marriage, but marital debt is real. Marital responsibility for debt is real. So even though the judge ordered him to pay half, you know, of everything that we owed, he didn't. And contempt didn't change the fact that those creditors still want to be paid. And my credit was stronger when we got married. So who'd they come for? Me. And I'll never forget my attorney told me, use all the tools at your disposal. If you have to seek relief from the courts. And I had a real hard time with that because I didn't want that stigma. But at the time, there was no way that I could continue to carry our life moving forward, as well as take care of him and the life that we had prior and those bills from that. So I did what I needed to do. And I can tell you that now, within the last year, I just built another house from the dirt by myself, this time. And I'll just say it is we'll say 3.5 times. Let's say 3.5 times the value, the size of the one that I let go. And there's a message in that to me. Don't be afraid to let go. Sometimes the things that you're holding on to are holding you back. And there's so much more in store for you if you trust, if you believe, if you have faith that God had a plan laid out for you before you were even born. And sometimes we get in our own way, believing for ourselves that we know better and know best. So if you're somebody out there that's struggling with, but if I let go, look what I'm giving up. I'm going to propose to you, if you let go, there's probably so much more in store for you. If that's what's right for your situation. You gotta be fearless in a way. Fearless and faithful. If there were any words that I would leave behind for anybody in this situation, yet to go through it, haven't gone through it, still struggling, be fearless and be faithful. And show up, suit up, and stay up. Because that situation doesn't define you either. That's another thing that I think people get mired down into. You know, it used to be one of my biggest pet peeves when somebody called me, an angry Black single mom. Nah, that's not ever what I was. That's not what I am. It's funny that when women are direct, when women are resilient, when women are not doormats, when women are smart, when women are intelligent, when women are persistent and pursue outcomes, we got to be angry. When men do it, they're strong men. I say, up all the negative talk from the outside. Don't do any negative self-talk to yourself. Know that you deserve it. You're worth it. There's no medals out here being given for the struggle. Trust me. None whatsoever. Take care of you. Be selfish. Put you and your kids first. And be dang the naysayers. And I'm saying dang because we're on a public forum. I want to be nice, but
be nice.
Be selfish.
You have some questions that have come in. So
yes.
The first one is from Katrina. Well, Katrina wants to tell you that she's happy that you stayed up. God bless you, she said. She said, but how did you do it? Like, of course, we don't have enough time to, to really go into the story further. But if there was one thing that you would walk away today in regards to leaving a tip for her, she said, what would it be? Because she's struggling. She's in a bad situation.
Well, thank you, Katrina, and God bless you as well. How how I did it is day by day. And I give anybody that advice. You don't have to know what your 1 year, 2 year, 5 year plan is. For me, I knock down every day, a day at a time. Because, and I've said this to you, Carla, before, if I had stopped and gone up, like a plane and took that 10,000, 30,000 feet up view at what the journey looked like, I would have gotten overwhelmed and it probably would have paralyzed me.
Yeah.
But what happens if you take it a day at a time, knock it down, plan your work your plan, just keep at it, stay persistent and don't give up. Before you know it, you got 1,000 miles behind. But you can't focus on too far ahead, and you definitely can't look back. Just stay down. I call it nose to the ground. I was grinding every single day.
I know you were. Sharon wants to know if you give consultations, and if so, how would she reach you?
You can give her my I don't know this newfangled.
What's your email address? What's your email address? How can they reach you? How can folks reach you?
Just my first and last name at Gmail, makanyalowry@gmail.com. And it's not the easiest name to spell, but it's MAKANYALOWERY@gmail.com. And I'm happy to talk to anybody.
She wants to know if you have any availability. It looks like she's going to send you an email tonight or this afternoon. What time is it? It's 3 something. She wants to know if you have any availability in your schedule for the rest of the month. Do you have availability, ma'am?
We'll work it out. Just send me the email and we'll work it out. Excellent.
Angel said that she's in a pretty bad situation with her soon-to-be ex-husband. She likes the idea of filling out the documents herself because she can't afford it. Where does she go? Is there somewhere online that you can start the research and perhaps print the documents? I don't know. So what steps do you give her?
The first step is you go to usually it's the county that you live in. Go to the Superior Court clerk in your county. And you, because the court clerk is where all the orders and any of the legal documents are recorded and held. And they also file for court dates and all that stuff. So that's where you start. And to me, it's just as simple. You can go to their website. They may have forms online, but if you're new to it, call them. Tell them what you're looking at and ask them what's available. Because in my particular county, they had a whole template. They gave me the link. I printed them out, filled them, took them in. If you need help filling them out, you can take them into them. There's so much goes unsaid just for lack of asking. But that's where you start, the Superior Court clerk in your county.
All right, excellent. Marcel says, hello. Hi, Marcel.
Hi, Marcel.
Marcel said that she's afraid of her husband. So sorry to hear that. And wants to know if she should immediately get a restraining order.
So let me tell you something about protective orders. And again, this is something that varies state to state as well. And let me give a disclaimer. So I have an undergraduate degree in political science and I have a master's in business, but I am not an attorney. So if you really got a special situation and you need legal advice, seek it out. Again, like I said, legal aid, something like that. So please don't anybody take what I'm saying as the gospel as what happens in your state or your county. But protective orders are typically handled, I would think, the same way. And I'm speaking from a point of experience because I have a permanent one in my divorce decree. It started out as a temporary so that I could leave. And when the judge finalized our divorce, he made it permanent, which means that my ex can't come within 500 feet of my residence, of my job, of me at any time. And when our
For the rest
kids,
of his life.
absolutely. So I can, and when we exchange our kid, used to exchange our kids for his visitation, it's in my decree that it has to happen at the nearest police station to where I live.
Yeah, I know that.
So, and that all of that is ordered for a reason. So you, if she's afraid of him, the first thing I would say is secure yourself and your children, if you have them. If you gotta leave and go somewhere where he doesn't know, do that. Safety is first, but then still, it's all at that county level. Go to your county superior court, and they call them TPOs, temporary protective orders, where you go and you fill out some paperwork describing the situation. Usually, if there is any physical abuse or any threat of physical abuse or somebody threatening to kill you or harm you in any way, that's what they'll ask for. You be honest in telling them that, and usually you'll get in front of a judge that day. You can't go and say, I want a TPO, made me mad, or we had an argument. It legitimately has to be physical abuse or threat. And they take it very seriously. And usually that order is issued that day, followed by that county's sheriff will serve the other party with that order and explain to them exactly what it means. You keep a copy of that order with you, and if they don't comply with it, you call police and you show them that order, they'll remove that person.
But I also want to interject and say that if she's afraid of her husband, like, go immediately now, leave this conference and go find guidance and protection. And she can always send you an email just to let us know that she's okay. But your first step is to go find help, like now.
Or get safe. Get to a safe place. And don't be, it's crazy that you have to say it, but move in stealth mode. If you're afraid of him, let him think everything is everything. Ain't nothing different. Wait until it's safe and make your move in silence. Don't announce nothing. Don't be saying, I'm going to stay. No, just do it, and do it quietly.
And once again, we don't have degrees in this. We're not law enforcement. We can only tell you about the situations that we've been in, that we've been a part of. But this is pretty serious. If you're afraid of the person that you're with right now, you need to find safety, shelter, contact your local police, a family member, someone from a church that you may attend, but you need to move now. Now is the time. Now is the time. But we appreciate your question, and we pray that you'll be safe this evening.
Absolutely.
You have a Nancy. Nancy wants to know, since your children have gotten older, you just purchased a new home. How do you feel about your accomplishments? What do you think about what you basically lived to tell the story through? Because you have a story.
I'm proud. I am relieved because, as a parent, I think, it's safe to say every parent wants their children to have the most full life and opportunity to thrive that they can provide them. And because my kids were so young, and they were innocent victims in it all, I feel like it was always a goal of mine to give them stability and not to shake their foundation, because what happens between adults shouldn't affect children in a negative way. I don't believe. So I always wanted them to
Children
know
need to be children. Children need to
Absolutely.
stay children, period.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I always wanted them to have a home of their own. And it meant everything to me to be able to, wherever I was, they were going to be okay and safe and provided for. But it's something different to be able to say that you've overcome. And that's really the word that I would use, and what I feel truthfully is I've overcome, because it's a tough road, and it's not a road that anybody asked for. You just kind of play the hand that you're dealt. But I'm saying, if you dealt the bum hand, if you know how to play spades like we do in the D, if you dealt the bum hand, listen, you run a Boston, okay? You run a Boston and make it happen.
Do what it do. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Serafina just sent a comment over saying that it appears as if I've known you for a very long time. So what do I think of your situation, and what do I think of your ex-husband? Oh, Serafina, girl, you.
Yeah, she asked the right one. She asked the right one.
I never particularly cared for him from the first time that I met him. I met him at your baby shower. That was the first time that I met him, because your baby shower was in the D, and I left New York to come to your baby shower. And I remember passing him in the corridor to the venue, and he was on the phone, I think, with another woman. I've told you this story
You have told me this story.
Yeah,
you have.
That I believe that he was on the phone with another woman, and it wasn't like a family member or a friend. It was probably his boo, just because of like bits and pieces of the conversation I heard, and it was just something that came over me that told me, a woman's intuition, that something wasn't right. But I didn't follow him on the conversation. I didn't trail behind him, but I heard enough to know that something wasn't right. And it was from that point on that I watched him.
You told me that.
Yeah, I told you that. Probably, I don't know, 7 years after I even heard him, because I didn't tell you right away because you were pregnant. I just knew that he was a sucker. Right. He comes from a really good background, and you would think from the background that he came from that he would really be legit. But he was someone that he talked the talk, but he didn't walk the walk.
Exactly.
And he was a master. Well, he was. I don't know what he is now. He was a master manipulator, and he solely lived for what people thought of him because of his background, his upbringing. And it was because of his upbringing that opened doors for him. Okay, because his family is really popular in the South, well known. And
let me say to that, that's the point I was making initially about, anybody can end up in a poor matchup. Even when you think you've done the due diligence, none of that says anything about a person's individual character, a person's individual accountability or responsibility, or what kind of mate they'll make. So that's another big thing to me for women. Don't feel like, because a lot of women, and people will tell you, well, you chose him, or you did something, somehow to bring it on yourself. And don't
No.
buy that. Don't buy it. Don't give it energy. Don't let that make you feel like somehow you deserve to be treated less than. Because I'm here to tell you that you don't.
Serafina, I think he was just a spoiled brat. His mother enabled him. Girl, I could go on and on. His mother enabled him. His father was seen but not heard, and it was a mess. And then on top of it, his lack of interest in his children. To be honest with you, I mean, uh, how is one okay not providing for their children? How do you get up every day and you don't even know if your kids have a glass of water to drink? I'm baffled by that. And it really didn't seem to faze him at all. And this is why Connie Macanya has rode him like she's riding a horse in the rodeo, because of what she said, it is your responsibility just as well as it's my responsibility. And you're not going to leave me footing the bill for the rest of my life for these children. Now, if I have to do it, I will. But I was married to you. I was in a relationship with you. And this is what you're going to do as an adult, period. Whether your mother like it, your father know what's going on, your sisters and brother, whether they give a damn or not, you are going to do what you're supposed to do as a participant in the event of creating these children.
And a lot of women fall into that trap of, it's my bed, I gotta lie in it. And I'm submitting to you that you weren't in that bed by yourself. So, no matter what anybody might think, I've been told so many times, I don't know why you deal with court. So, it's such a waste of time. It's such a waste of money. It's such a waste of, no, it's not. It's not. I've even heard other men say, and there's plenty of brothers out here, plenty of men out here who are divorced or, not with their children's moms, who are great fathers. No court has to tell them to give anything because they do what the court requires and some, because that's their level of integrity and the respect that they have for their fatherhood.
Right.
So, to those brothers, hats off, because that's the way it should be. But the reality is, and we all know that far too often, that's not the case. I mean, I could look back at my own childhood, my sister's own childhood. Yeah, we had non-participating fathers as well. So it's not new. It's not a new phenomenon. But to me, it should be. For women going through it right now, it should be a new day. You don't have to accept that fate as, woe is me. No, absolutely not. Fight that thing and go on with your life, because you weren't meant to carry that burden on your own. It takes two to tango, and you should fit the bill as far as I'm concerned.
Serafina, I'm just going to wrap up by saying this because I could go on and on for hours because I lived it with her. So my friend was determined to raise her children the best way that she knew how. My sister friend grew up in a family where failure was not an option. Shout out
Absolutely.
to Nellie and Adele.
Shout out, absolutely.
That was shout out to them. That was not an option. And so even though her ex-husband didn't want to participate, she still continued to follow the light. Even though it got dim at times, she followed the light, and now she did a cross on the other side. So for everything that she's lost, she's got it back triple.
Amen to that.
Of what she lost. And as far as the ex-husband, he's somewhere with his mom and him. Okay? Because that's where he ended up. He ended up back at his mama's house, but that's all I'm gonna say on that. He's back with his mother because she's the only woman that can deal with the foolishness that she helped create, and is doing very, very well. But
Amen.
I'm just happy that you lived the story. And I always tell you that I'm proud of you. So shout out to you. They
Thank
couldn't.
you.
They
Thank
made you. They
you.
couldn't break you because you from the D. One of the finest from the D. Shout out to
Absolutely.
everybody back home in Detroit. Shout out to everybody back home in Detroit. No
Shout
matter
out.
where we may be, no matter where we may reside, we are from Detroit. We are proud of that.
We represent.
City. Yeah, wonderful city that helped create a group of strong and resilient people, no matter where they decided to reside in. We were brought up with morals and values. And I'm just pretty happy that, you know, once again, I had strict parents who led me in the right direction to be successful in my adult years. So as I bring this to a close, Miss Laurie, do you have any parting words for our viewers? And don't forget to leave your information again. I know that you left your email address more than once, but just give it to us one more time before we end.
Yes, ma'am. McConaugheyLowry@gmail.com. And if I had to leave any parting words, it would be know who you are, know whose you are, and don't let anything or anyone take you out of yourself, however you say it, knock you off your square, shift your focus. Because, you know, life is going to twist and turn no matter what. And you can't control other people, what they do, what they don't do. But what you can control is your reaction. And I say all those reactions need to be swift, decisive, intentional, and aimed at winning. Mindset is everything. Keep your mindset at winning, no matter what situation you find yourself in. If you got no kids, if you got 10 kids, if you battled, you know, if you've done jobs that you aren't proud of, whatever it is, keep your mindset on winning and don't let anybody make you think that you're less than or you deserve less than, because that's just not the truth and ain't no truth in it.
Amen. So as we bring this conference to a close, we're going to have you sit in as we bring this conference to a close. What a fantastic day. Thank you guys so much for showing up, because you really could have been anywhere, but you took time out of your day to be here, to be present with my group of fantastic panelists. They showed up and they showed out, and I appreciate them. So listen, once again, thank you guys for the technical difficulties that we had. Maybe it's the weather. I don't know what's going on. But nothing was going to stop this conference from happening today. Hope you guys join us tomorrow, same place, same time, for day 2 of the Women's Empowerment Conference. I love you. See you tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.